I'd like to move a leave of absence for Councillor Edwards, as he is unwell. Do we have a seconder for that? Councillor Burkett. Any opposition? We'll go to the vote. All those in favour? That's 8-0. Okay, moving on to confirmation of the minutes of the 26th of October 2022. Do we have a mover? Councillor Guthrie.
I'd like to move that the minutes of the ordinary meeting held on the 26th of October 2022 be confirmed.
Okay, do we have a seconder? Councillor Ladbrook. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak? We'll go to the vote. All those in favour? 8-0.
Looking at
48.
page 48.
Thank you. Item 8.1, request for lease agreement of Roma Neighbourhood Centre Incorporated. I'd like to move one, that a peppercorn lease agreement for the Roma Neighbourhood Centre Incorporated for the neighbourhood centre located at the corner of Bowen and Quinton Street, Roma, be formulated. 2, consider a service level agreement with the Roma Neighbourhood Centre Incorporated, and this be brought back to council for consideration. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Ladbrook. Please go ahead.
I have a question. Who is the entity? Who is the stakeholders on the entity who's president, secretary?
We can get a list of that if you would like it.
I think we need it, because what if we have a conflict of interest with somebody who's on that?
Okay, so we'll lay that on till later in the meeting. I move we lay this on the table till later in the meeting to get that information. Is there any other questions we have?
I do have one question.
Yeah, well, Councillor O'Neill and then Councillor Taylor.
Through you, Chair. Has a formal approach for a lease been sought from the Roma Neighbourhood Centre Incorporated?
I don't know whether a formal one has. I'm moving this because that was always what we've talked about as part of the plan, and now the group is incorporated, want to move on with the next step, which is getting it in place.
But then isn't it it's their lease, so wouldn't they make an approach to council to lease the neighbourhood centre?
No, I think that understanding has always been there, that's why they've incorporated a group, and it's actually our lease that we do with them. So this is in basically getting the ball rolling.
But they need to seek a lease from us, don't they?
Not necessarily. It can be a joint thing that we would like to lease it to them. So that was always, I think that's pedantic. I don't think it matters who organises it. Will be discussions that will have to be headed. This is supported.
But they want a lease, is what you're saying, do they?
Yes, yeah.
So they have made an approach to you then?
No, that has been the understanding all the way along when council has supported starting the, helping support start the organisation, that they were going to have a lease over the building. So that is something that would be formulated. I don't think it needs to have something in writing. I think that's a discussion that we would have, and that's how you formulate what's in a lease.
It's just that they're a formal entity now, as you say in your report. I would have thought that they would make an approach to the owner of the building, which in this case is council, to enter into a lease agreement. And that way we would know in this report, as Councillor Hancock's highlighted, and that was going to be my question as well, who are the members of Roma Neighbourhood Centre Incorporated?
Yeah, so we can get you that information, Councillor. Councillor Taylor?
My question is just where it says consider a service level agreement. What does that mean exactly?
Oh, just the nuts and bolts of what council would expect, and it would also have what they expect as well. So it's just a very clear document to have both sides of the relationship.
So when you say we may include what you have down here, it might not necessarily be all of that?
No, it could be, well, it's up to the full council what they want, and it's also what the group wants. So obviously we get that to come back to council.
So the lease agreement comes back to council?
Yeah.
Says that brought back to council number 2.
Yeah. Okay.
So just through the chair, this motion actually asks for the approval of a peppercorn lease agreement. So certainly in all the consultation that led up to the incorporation of the group was, the formulation of the fact that there would be a group incorporated. The purpose of the group was to run a range of activities that would be beneficial to the region around community safety, etc., and that the service level agreement is really backing up the lease. So it's actually not a binding agreement per se as a legal instrument. It's more of it is literally an operational agreement. This is the incorporated entity. This is what they'll do. This is what they'll be tasked with doing in relation to their role. Given the fact that that a group of people expressed interest in that, there still is a degree of formulation around, okay, where's that focus of activity going to be in relation to council's broader agenda, which was around community safety and supporting the broader community around youth programming and a whole range of things. And what that service level agreement will do is tidy that up and nut that out, get some focus to that. This is what we'll deliver, and this is when we'll deliver it, and this is how long it'll take to deliver it. But this motion actually asks, go ahead, formalise an agreement, it's a peppercorn, endorse that, and then go to the next step of actually working out what that committee will do for you and then bring that back for further endorsement. Does that make sense?
The actual lease doesn't come back to us, just the level of agreement.
That's right, it's just a peppercorn lease, yes.
And I, as a mover, I don't mind if it does come back, but this is about actually driving to get the lease agreement.
I think that's what you moved on there, isn't it? Be formulated. You never actually said the word approve at the beginning of your resolution.
No, but I'm happy for it to bring back, but I do understand what the CEO is saying, that the intent is that we're going ahead with it. And then the second part is it's been clear that council has approved looking at crime prevention program, and there are some other things that I believe we'd like to see as benefit to be conducted at the building, and that is obviously what would be in the service level agreement in detail, I believe. Okay, Councillor Hancock and then O'Neill.
So just another.
I thought we laid this on the table.
We haven't gone to a vote. I just want to get all the questions first before we don't have to come back to it. Councillor Hancock.
Just so I can understand how this goes, because we have many organisations that have some lease over our facilities, but we don't necessarily then have any say over what they're delivering to the community. How, I guess the Roma Neighbourhood Centre Inc has been formed as a group in town. How do we, like Peppercorn lease is about the facility, it's actually not about an agreement of our council's expectation of this community group. I don't understand how we are now, like we haven't got a formal partnership with these guys. How are we requesting that of this community group?
Well, if you're requesting no rent for a building, in my view, that we will be asking certain things which will not be onerous as far as the group, and if they agree with that, they will say, yeah, no problem, we're going to do it anyway.
So yours is the lease subject to an agreement, a service level agreement then?
It would have to be.
Yeah, but also I believe in the lease there'll be some basic ideas of what that we would like them to do, and then if we want specific things done, we would have that as a separate agreement. If we want them to run a program or things like that, that can be a secondary thing. But the idea of the peppercorn lease is that we don't, I think it would be not good to say, by the way, there's a peppercorn lease, but we don't expect anything from it. I do think that we need to expect that, and both parties need to know up front. Councillor O'Neill?
Is the peppercorn, the intent is $1?
Yeah.
And where will we be drawing the funds for with the costs of setting up the lease? Take that on notice.
Yes, certainly I can. Look, through the chair, we do this work already. We don't actually take it from a general ledger. We actually have a facilities area that actually draws up stuff in relation to user agreements, leases, those kind of things. So it'll be from the same area. Do we need to articulate this in this particular recommendation? No, not necessarily. We're talking about a peppercorn lease and we're just drawing up an appropriate agreement in relation to that. If we want a registered lease, then we'll use either a template approach or go through a solicitor's. But it's the same process that we're using all the time. And I think most recently you did it for another item a couple of months ago and you didn't articulate any money or where the GL was coming from. I just can't recall the item, but it's a peppercorn lease. We would draw up that agreement. Council would support that out of its facilities costs around setting up agreements in relation to leases and licences and user agreements.
But there will be a cost that would be attributed to a ledger, as you say.
Yes, yeah, there is already a budget for that process already. It's broad, but there's a budget for that.
But we have historically passed on that to other entities. So and if we're not, then we'll be paying for that.
Look, through the chair, no, you haven't historically passed it on to other entities. And there's probably quite a marked process there that you actually don't. So, but you do raise a good point, is that if councils to absorb those costs, is that you might improve the resolution to reflect that, is to say that council will cover the in-kind costs of the preparation of the lease, just to articulate that.
Any other questions? Councillor Hancock?
Just while we're waiting to get this information back, it would be really good if we can find out what that was, which organisation that was for with that peppercorn lease that we paid for the lease, because I actually know that there has been a resolution of council where council decided from another non-profit that they had to incur those costs. And so, you know, just to make sure we're being fair and equitable across the community, I would like to know.
Look, through the chair, I don't know whether that's able to be done today, given the fact that we're remote.
I think I know which one, so I'm just mindful of conflicts. I can actually quietly tell you which one it was that we did it for.
Sure. Great.
Okay. Denise, any other questions?
Okay. And then when Councillor Guthrie quietly tells you, would you tell all of us?
Yeah, just that there's somebody who's got a conflict of interest in the room that I can't share that. So. And I could probably share, there's some with conflict as well that I can probably share where council went against that resolution and got the community group to do it themselves. So I guess there is some different levels there that we haven't.
I think the genesis through the chair for this particular concept is this is council's concept. We're actually asking for a group to be formed to take on a role to deliver stuff, you know, range of services, you know, that contribute to better crime prevention and safety outcomes for the community. So essentially, what are we including in that? And if we need to improve the resolution to reflect those things, you can do that. And the service level agreement is actually just articulating, okay, what does that programming look like that we know about at this particular point?
And that actually makes it, what you just said actually makes it much more clearer.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so we're going to go to the vote on laying it on the table till later in the meeting to get the information. All those in favour? Okay, 8-0. 10.1, Council of Mayors Financial Contribution 2022-23. Do we have any questions? Please go ahead, Councillor Hancock.
I'm just wondering, you know, as in the report, this has been going now for a year. It is we do financially contribute to it. I was wondering, has there been so many outcomes of the group that can be reported back to council?
There can be, and as I've asked before, for the minutes to be shared from the meetings. So if you're not getting those, please let me know.
I haven't received any minutes
so
from
CEO, could they go to
certainly.
please?
And look, apologies if you haven't already received those. They tend to be a bit slow in coming, so certainly I'll go back and double check that.
But generally, the biggest thing is it has more weight advocating on issues, because you have Toowoomba as well as all the Western councils, and there's even talk there might even be another council join in that area as well as Gundawindi. So it's and this is probably brought about future changes in the future with in the next term with the chair and so forth. So this is about sort of charting a path to be able to. Toowoomba has always contributed basically all of the behind the scenes cost, unless they're in the region, and then the council does. So you know, it's really looking at a different model, and I said, you know, we'd have to take it back to council and see if council wanted to support it.
Can you give an example of something that the group has advocated for and there's been an outcome for?
Well, there's been, that's why I say it's probably more on, for instance, foot and mouth awareness, and getting on to the state about actually, and the feds about doing more in that space. So the council of mayors, we're not that big an area of population, but we're a big area of production for Australia. So yeah, I would say the biggest area would be being able to get contact with our decision makers, federal and state, would be the biggest area. There'd be individual things, yeah, that do happen, but one of them, you know, is working together on the transport reports with the CSIRO, and but there's many of things. A lot of updates happen at the meetings, but I think the biggest thing is, without this, we've got Southwest Rock, but we don't have as much push as what Darling Downs and Southwest Council of Mayors do.
Yeah, and through the chair, we did circulate the minutes back in April. I'll just make sure you got the latest lot of the latest lot of minutes, and certainly those minutes, just checking through them, just to in response to that, is they clearly articulate those areas that we're working on: the CSIRO, freight studies, transport, the range of sort of intergovernmental updates that we're receiving at those meetings, as well as a couple of other stuff in relation to roads, etc. But I'll just make sure that you've got those latest lot of minutes.
Councillor Taylor?
My question is, I just want to know, how often do they meet? And do we sit at the table, or is it virtual, or...?
Well, it has been virtual. It depends on the time and when it is on. For instance, last time it was virtual for me, and I think Councillor McMullen was there as a observer for some of the meetings. So it's yeah, it varies then depending who can come.
So is it once a month or once a quarter?
No, it's probably about
Twice a year.
Yeah.
no, it's more than twice.
Yes.
So I'd say about 4 times a year, approximately, that they have one. So, okay. Any other questions, Councillor O'Neill?
So there's been, I know the meeting you're talking about in Cairns, but has there been a meeting between April and
In July. Yeah,
in July? So
we just making sure you're getting
I
those
don't think
minutes
we've got
of
those
those.
minutes. But the payment, is it still being hosted by Toowoomba Regional Council?
That's right. Yes.
So the payment goes to Toowoomba Regional Council?
Yes.
Yep. Okay.
Yes, absolutely. And look, through the chairs, just to let you know, I haven't got the latest update of minutes, but I will chase those for July for you.
But that may change in the future.
Yeah,
and the idea of this is to
So I'm happy to move.
Councillor O'Neill.
I'll move the council, A, note the current annual contribution of $1,903 allocated as part of the 2022-23 budget. B, contribute the revised amount of $3,903, that's a $2,000 increase, as an administrative levy to the Darling Downs and South West Council of Mayors for the 2022-23 year. And C, adjust the 2022-23 budget accordingly, which I imagine will be captured in the quarter review, CEO?
Yes, through the chair. Yes.
I'll second it, Mr.
Okay. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak to it?
I do. I think it's imperative that we continue involvement in this particular group. I think Paul Antonio's been doing a fantastic job as You know, the Mayor, obviously, of Toowoomba being the largest council in the Darling Downs and South West, leading, you know, the advocacy effort across the broader region. He also sits on the South East Queensland Council of Mayors as well, and I think that provides another platform into that entity, which seems to you know, continue to get significant clout, and so we need to be at the table to advocate for our region, and if it means that we need to increase the allocation so it's fairer across the 10 councils, then we should be backing that today.
Anyone else wish to speak? We'll go to the vote. All those in favour? 8-0. Annual report 2020-2021.
Sorry, I'll just through the chair, just make sure that that's the right date. I'm just looking at that, 21-22. Sorry, apologies for that.
Yeah, 21-22. Hopefully not that far behind. Do we have a mover?
I have a question.
Please go ahead.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Just on page 28 of the annual report. Where it says the numbers for our executive leadership, it's got one female, 2 males, so that's 3. But I thought with our directors in place now that but is that from 20? And we did have some directors in place for some of this, but is it still only the 3?
Just through the chair, I'm just having a look at that. Where are we looking at the which one is that? The executive leadership, is it?
Yeah.
Look, this is as at the 30th of June. You're happy to take it on notice to have a look back on this. We have checked the document a number of times. We've still got some little bits and pieces that we've got to pick up. But I'll certainly chase that for you.
And also then the same on page 197 when it's got the breakdown of the remuneration packages for the senior management, the CEO and directors. Yes. Just checking the numbers of directors that we have there as well. 197.
So just
because that there doesn't then add up to what we're reading on page 28.
Yeah.
It might be the timing when they started, because they started, I think, in October or something.
Yeah, and very well could be. I just wanted to.
Yep,
I'll even within the document, that doesn't add up.
Yep,
within that document.
Yeah, I'll certainly go back and check that for you. 197.
Well, is someone happy to move it with those things looked at and corrected?
Yes, and through the chair, I do apologise, Councillor O'Neill, that we haven't got your photo in there, and we have picked that up.
I thought it looked pretty good.
Just in relation to the expenses and reimbursements for councillors, previously we've had in there, and I haven't got it in front of me, but a line item for legal expenses.
Yep.
Is that not included for the individual councillors anymore? Or you might tell me there's been no legal fees incurred in that period?
There's been no legal fees incurred in this period for councillors.
Okay.
That is correct.
And correct. There is this little table here does report against that policy, and we've certainly been checking that. There is expenditure, but it's this current financial year.
Okay, does anyone wish to move?
I'll move that Council adopt the 2021-22 annual report for Maranoa Regional Council with some amendments.
Well, it's got that in the next line, I think.
No, it's not as presented though. We're not accepting it as it's presented. We want it presented with the amendments.
Yes, so through the chair, it's just adopt it as presented, authorise the CEO to make any minor amendments.
Okay, Council as presented. Adopt the 2021-22 annual report for Maranoa Regional Council as presented. Authorise the Chief Executive Officer to make any minor amendments if required before the publication of the report. 2, put the report on Council's website within 2 weeks of adopting the annual report. and in accordance with S 182.4 of the Local Government Regulation 2012. 3. Write to the Minister advising of the adoption of the annual report for 2021-22.
Just with that too, you said publish. You put.
What did I say, sorry?
You just put. You want to put that to publish?
Publish the report.
Yeah.
Because I didn't say that.
No, put the report.
Oh, sorry. Publish the report.
I'm happy to second that, Mr. Mayor.
We have a seconder. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak? We're going to go to the vote. All those in favour? 8-0. (11.1) 2021-22 annual financial statements. Do we have a movement? Councillor Ladbrook.
I'd like to move that council endorse the audited annual finance statements for 2021-22 as presented.
We have a seconder. Councillor Guthrie, any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak?
I just got a question.
Please go ahead.
I'm on page 75 of the big white one.
Yes.
It says operating budget, new proposed budget amendments. So that means if we.
That's the wrong document, Councillor.
That'll be for the quarter one.
Oh, that's the quarterly review, is it?
Sorry, I got the wrong one. Oh, sorry.
That's all right.
All the documents for this one's within the report.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, I got the wrong one. Sorry.
That's okay.
Righto. So we have a mover and a seconder. Does anyone wish to speak to the motion? Then we're going to go to the vote. All those in favour? 8-0.
Page 115.
11.2 Queensland Audit Office Final Management Letter 21-22. Do we have a mover?
Yep.
Councillor Guthrie.
I'd like to move that pursuant to section 2133 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, Council receive and note the Queensland Audit Office Final Management Report for the 2021-22 as presented by the Mayor.
Okay, do we have a seconder? Councillor Ladbrook, any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak?
Just got a question.
Please go ahead.
Through the chair, just on page 2, the Auditor Office has made some observations around changes in landfill restoration provisions and other potential things we need to consider. I just wondered what the intention was in the lead up to next year's budget to recognise those observations and what work will be done to include that for council consideration.
Yeah, sure. Through the chair, question, Councillor O'Neill. Look, we're actually currently working on that right now, having a look at those rehab provisions. Certainly there's some groundwork and certainly over the year we can have those discussions. We already have sort of a certain indication in relation to the impact of that, of the review of those provisions already. So we certainly can bring that to a briefing to have a more detailed discussion in relation to that.
In the new year?
Certainly, potentially new year or even earlier.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Councillor Hancock.
Just on page 119, which is page 1 of the 119, down the bottom it's got observation. Management has been unable to explain the reasons for the significant increases in budgeted financial year 22 rate in the dollar amounts for those included in the FY21 budget. It is further noted that the employees within council originally responsible for preparing the revenue statement, including the rates in the dollar, are no longer with the council and therefore unable to provide the detailed insight into the methodology applied to determine these rates. Implication is there is a risk that the rate and the dollar are incorrectly calculated. But isn't that a council policy? Like council set the rate and the dollar, council did that, and so shouldn't there be some documentation of how to explain that? So I'm just a bit confused with that comment.
Yes, look, it's an observation, and obviously from the Queensland Audit perspective, they put their observations in there. We certainly have detailed rates reports that actually outline the model chosen and some of the issues in relation to that. But remembering this is the 30th of June 22, so it's not the work we've done for this current rating period. This is just a management conversation. But we certainly have the ability to keep Queensland Office informed about the rating decisions, and as you know, we did a lot of work around that this year. That is still management dialogue. They're actually talking to staff in relation to that, and we certainly can bring that back and go. So Queensland Audit Office have made that commentary. However, we've got, reports that we can supply them for this year and saying, is that the kind of detail you want for this year? What kind of information is going to improve that observation so that it's not there for next year?
Yeah, because I think it was just that.
If I may provide a bit of feedback to you through the chair too.
Council that's decided that, and is that, are they looking at stuff, and is that something we just need to pick up?
Thank you.
Okay, do we have a mover?
Yeah, I think we did.
We did a second.
Is that up on the screen, Kel? Oh, yeah, there we go. Thank you. Okay, does anyone wish to speak to it? Then we're going to go to the vote. All those in favour? 8-0. Uh, 13.1, responses of naming Roma Saleyards. Do we have a mover? Councillor Guthrie.
I'd like to move that council...
No, sorry, it's remiss of me. I should have declared an interest on this.
Please go.
I'd like to declare an interest. I'll just go if you. I'll wait till you get to it. Yep. So the report title: Kelly's responses for naming of Roma Saleyards Interpretive Centre. Declaring council as myself. The person with the interest, related party closest to other relationship is myself. The particulars of the interest, no, well, it won't be myself. It's Aussie Berend.
Yes, okay.
Particulars of the interest is Aussie Berend is a close personal friend. The type of conflict is a declarable conflict of interest. And the action I'll take is, although I have a declarable conflict of interest, I will opt to stay in the room and put it to council to consider that. And I should say the particulars of the interest is a close personal friend and is referenced in the report.
Okay, do we have anyone that wishes to move something?
Who's got the magic button?
Councillor Taylor.
I'm just waiting for it. I don't have it there. I believe that it's in the public interest that Councillor O'Neill participates and votes on agenda item 13.1 because a reasonable person would trust that the decision is made in the public interest.
Do we have a seconder? Second. Councillor McMullen, any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak? We'll go to the vote. All those in favour? 7-0. Councillor Guthrie, please go ahead.
I'd like to move that Council 1 name the Roma Saleyards Interpretive Centre after Charles Valentine Harms Jr. as the Val Harms Interactive Centre, and 2, create and display a visual exhibit confirming Val Harms' significant contribution to both the Maranoa cattle industry and the Roma Saleyards.
Okay, we have a seconder, Councillor Burkett. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak?
Can we just get the name up there again? That wasn't clear to me.
Councillor Guthrie, if you want to.
Name the Roma Saleyards Interpretive Centre after Charles Valentine Harms Jr. And I'm happy to leave the AKA, also known as Val Harms or CVH.
Can I?
Yeah, go.
I'm happy to second it, but Burke, I second. Sorry, but it needs to be the Val Harms because that's all he's ever known as.
Yeah.
He's the third generation of Charles Valentine Harms. That's my opinion anyway.
Yeah, and that's why I continued.
That's the AKA.
That's the AKA, and he's also known as Charles Valentine Harms Jr. because his father was actually Charles Valentine Harms as well. So I do think you need to have the junior there. But I've also continued, Kelly, by saying, as the Val Harms in number 1, Kelly. So he was known as Val Harms. So as the Val Harms Interactive Centre. Interactive Centre.
So would that be what's on the building, is the Val Harms Interactive Centre?
That would be my suggestion because when I'll speak to it though. Yeah.
No, I'm just clarifying for what we're voting on, that's all. Righto.
And Kel, can I just get number 2?
Yes.
Create and display a visual exhibit confirming Val Harms' significant contribution to both the Maranoa cattle industry and the Roma Saleyards.
So all the CVH, is that it going to be in there?
It was in the original. It was in the original suggestion. I think it was also in Peggy Harms's information. I'm happy to leave, if that is what Val Harms was known in some sectors of the community, I'm happy to leave it as CVH or Val Harms or Charles Valentine Harms because it's all the one and the same man.
The way that reads, the centre will be called Val Harms Interactive Centre.
That's the way I
Full stop. Yeah. It just happens to be after that.
Yeah.
But that's what it would be called.
And well, maybe I just get rid of.
And through the chair, is it Interpretive Centre? Or?
That's what I was going to ask. Is it interactive or interpretive?
Well, I was thinking, I've been out there many times, I'm not sure why it's interpretive because when you look at the word interpretive, it's actually an interactive centre where you go and press on the actual displays and then it provides the audio visual. So I'm not sure why. I'm happy to have discussion.
Guthrie, we'll go to speak and do it if no one's got a question. Okay, would you wish to speak to the motion?
Yeah, I would love to, please. As all of us did, we received a very, very lengthy collation of information provided by Val's widow that then provided part of the agenda item, and I would like to thank Peggy for such a comprehensive array of documentation, giving us a very good indication of his legacy as part of the naming of this particular centre. And for me, a number of significant points stood out, and I'd like to be able to just identify 5 things that I thought were very noteworthy that was in the paperwork we received. Number 1, that Val was the longest serving stock and station agent who had continuous employment in the Maranoa region. He commenced his agency work at 16 years of age in 1947 and retired in December 1992, which was a career spanning over 45 years in the Maranoa. Val worked in his career with many Roma agencies, including Dalgety Winchcombe FGC, a role that he held for 32 years, and at his retirement, he held the position of assistant manager. 3, the family history of the Harms family, with Val's grandfather coming to Roma in 1880. Val's grandfather, Charles Harms, and his father, Charles Valentine Harms Sr., both held the positions as chairman of the Bungle Shire Council. Val was present at the opening of the original combined Roma Saleyards in October 1969 and he's actually on the rail when the first pen of cattle on that day was sold by Sir William Knox. Val was called Mr. Hereford for his role in promoting this breed and personally organising the largest white-faced store sale in Queensland in 1973, which was made exclusively from breeders in the Roma district. And until Val's death in 2005, he actively continued to buy and sell cattle for himself, as well as for other commissioned clients at the Roma Saleyards, and even now his legacy continues with his daughter and grandsons operating the cattle property called Ferndale.
Okay, does anyone wish to speak against the motion? Councillor Hancock.
Thanks, Mayor. Whilst I respect and honour actually the two gentlemen who have been put forward in You Have Your Say and what they have done and their commitment to the Roma Saleyards over many, many years and the community, and I honestly do respect and honour them for what they have done, but there was two men put up for that, and I just believe that when naming the Saleyards Interpretive Centre, so we can tell the tourists about what's there, because at the moment the tourists, you know, they go to the big rig and they get told to go there, but when they're driving past, there is no signage on the building, and so therefore they don't know what's actually there. And so the name that is up on that signage outside the centre is really about telling the tourists what is there so that they can go. And I just don't think that Valham's Interactive Centre to a tourist will mean anything. It doesn't actually tell them what they're going to experience while they're there. I would like to see, in my opinion, that we call it the Roma Saleyards Interpretive Centre, because that tells the tourists exactly what it is, and then dedicate it to this gentleman, or maybe both the gentlemen who have been put forward within this report. That is just how I feel. The name should be about telling the tourists about what experience they're going to get, and it is about the Roma Saleyards and the history of the Roma Saleyards, and then we should be dedicating it to these individuals. And so on that basis, I will be voting against this motion today, but definitely honour the commitment of this gentleman who has given many years' service.
Does anyone wish to speak for the motion?
Yeah, I'll go.
Councillor Burkett.
Yeah, I think I'll also endorse the Val Harms and what Councillor Guthrie alluded to, and the wealth of information that's in the report, and actually the quotes from well-respected men in the cattle industry and over a number of years was quite interesting reading, and he was held in such high regard, and I think that he's a worthwhile candidate. And with the signage, I think we can get around that as far as promoting the Saleyards. One good thing I'd like to see come out of it is the Hereford section be brought into the mix, because I think it was forgotten about in the Interpretive Centre at the start. Herefords was one of the main sources of cattle when the start of the Saleyards, and I think it's been left out somewhat. So I think this way also will bring that in there. But I'm fully supportive of having the Val Harms, in dedication to Val Harms in this report.
Okay, does someone wish to speak against the motion?
I'd like to move an amendment if I can.
Please go ahead.
I'd like to move that in point 1, it's name the Roma Saleyards Interpretive Centre, the Val Harms Roma Saleyards Interpretive Centre.
Okay, do you have a seconder, or does the mover wish to accept that?
I'm happy to put Roma Saleyards Interactive Centre. I'm happy to do that.
I'm happy with interactive, sorry. Yeah.
And I did, I'll wait until, I'm happy to accept that.
So just so I'm clear, the amendment I'm moving is to read Val Harms Roma Saleyards Interactive Centre. Okay.
Yes, Mayor, I'm happy to accept that.
I'm just getting my head around it. Val Harms Roma Saleyards Interactive Centre.
Yes, that's what I've... Val Harms Roma Saleyards Interactive Centre.
Yeah.
And then in the information following, it'll have all that.
That doesn't change?
Yeah.
I'm just...
No.
So what, may I ask a question?
Please go ahead.
What is highlighted on the screen is what's going to be on the outside of the building. Is that correct?
Well, that's what...
Is that the intention?
Yeah.
That'll be the name.
Yeah.
That's the
And it should, can I also, the Val Harms Roma Saleyards Interactive Centre.
Yeah, I'm happy to accept that, Mr Mayor.
Is the seconder happy
Yeah,
with
I'm happy with that.
Okay, well, that is the motion. Please go ahead.
So I'll speak to it if I can. Thank you, Councillor Guthrie, for supporting that. I think the arguments that Councillor Hancock put forward are a real issue. If we were just to leave it just simply Val Harms Interactive Centre, the people that this particular asset was developed for would have no idea what it was. I too read with interest the information that was shared on this particular individual, someone that I don't know. I know Peggy, but I didn't know her late husband. So I read that with great interest, and I accept that based on the information that's provided, Mr Harms is a worthy individual to be recognised in this way. Equally, there are other members of our community that have done a power of work for the Saleyards over many years that we too should probably look at ways to honour them as well. But I think this will address what we went out to the community to achieve, which was to name the centre, but by including Roma Saleyards will capture what it actually is, and we will be able to market this as a must-do on our tourism assets when people visit our region.
Does anyone else wish to speak against the motion or for the motion? Councillor McMullen.
I'd just like to say, Mr Mayor, I agree with everything that's been said, and it's not very often. I definitely know there's no one else in the Roma area that's started and finished in the same town, never left town, but I don't think there's too many right across Queensland agents that have, you know, they generally they move around a fair bit, but started and finished his career in Roma, where he was born.
Okay, does anyone else wish to speak? Councillor Hancock.
Yes, Mr Mayor, I'm willing to support the amendment because it does actually tell the tourists what the centre is for and what the experience is going to be about, and so I'm more than happy to support the amendment that's been put up.
So I think it is the motion now. It was an amendment.
Okay, yeah.
And it is the motion.
Okay, well...
does anyone else wish to speak? I'll be supporting this. I think it's respectful for, Val Harms's family. Also, I've had the feedback that there was not really any emphasis put on the history of Roma Saleyards. So I do believe not only will it be Val Harms, but it was also Peggy Harms has a lot of information about other people that were in that industry at the time, and I believe they'll get an opportunity to be aired if we do have the display about the history of Roma Saleyards in the centre. Okay,
Can I sum up?
Yeah, please go ahead.
I'd just like to really, number 2 there was about making sure, and I am mindful of your comments that many of you may have not known Val, and he was a very much a character in the Roma cattle industry and had links far and wide, not just in Queensland, but as we read the articles across Australia and Victoria, and there were letters of testimony written. He's also very much written and included in the book called And They Came to the Roma Saleyards, which was written by John Guilford. I think the timing is really good to be able to allow Peggy to share with us all of the information that she has, so that a very good visual exhibit can be there. And there may be people who don't know of Val's legacy, but I think if we can actually have one of the exhibits there explaining why Val was chosen and what he was seen to have contributed both to the cattle industry as well as the Roma Saleyards, I think that's a step forward, and I'd like to think that that can happen while Peggy has all of the information and is willing to share, and I think it's an exciting thing for the Saleyards.
Okay, on that note, we'll go to the vote. All those in favour? 8-0.
page 164.
Amby Hall Driver Reviver Program. Councillor Burkett.
I'd like to move that Council 1 endorse the Driver Reviver program to be operated from the Amby Hall, provided A, Amby Progress Association has adequate public liability insurance cover for the activities. B, Amby Progress Association comply with the Food Act regulations for the serving of food. 2, add item in user agreement allowing program to operate from the Amby Hall. 3, allow temporary canvas banners to be erected to promote the program when the Driver Reviver is operating.
We have a seconder, Councillor Taylor. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak to it?
Yes, Mr Mayor. At the moment in Amby, they're a bit of a go-get-em town. At the moment, they're a driven and committed group. There's the Amby Progress Association, the Amby QCWA and the Spinner Yarn. And they're really promoting their area and doing a really fantastic job, and I think this is just another little string to their bow to put Amby on the map and get people pulling up in these small towns, so I applaud them for their initiative.
Okay, do we have anyone else wish to speak to it? I'll speak to it. Yeah, what a wonderful initiative. I do hope that councillors consider to be supportive, and I do hope if they hit any brick walls being able to do it with their insurance that they come back to council. But I would imagine they've probably already got it sorted, so I'll look forward to seeing them be able to operate and give some comfort to people that stop, and you know, certainly some fellowship on the highway. So does anyone else wish to speak? Does the move wish to sum up? We'll go to the vote. All those in favour? 8-0. Item 14.1, Care Outreach Request Mitchell. Do we have a mover?
Question.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Just on point 2, we've got the allocate the fee from community service obligation budget. I've just never seen the community service obligation budget before. Is that a new budget item, or is that like, do we call the in-kind, major or minor in-kind budget now, are we calling it community service obligation budget?
Look, through the chair, that's I'm not aware of that terminology either, so I'll take that on notice and just ask the detail as to relation to whether that's the actual label attached to that GL.
Okay, yeah, please go ahead.
Through the Mayor, we did ask about this. We asked, not sure the title, Cindy Owen.
Through the chair, the budget coordinator.
Budget coordinator, what the appropriate source of funding for this was, and she gave us that advice. While I'm speaking, they've reduced by about a week the amount of time they'd like to spend in Mitchell. So the new budget provided by the Property Management and Customer Service Coordinator was $6,657.30. So the new period is 16th of November to the 1st of December for the Mitchell Retirement Village, and 16th of November until the 4th of December for the Mitchell Showgrounds. That came in, I think, Friday, which is why it's not in the report. But what they're asking for now is an in-kind of $6,657.30 rather than the $10,332.90.
Righto.
I didn't see the 10,000. It was 9,000.
Is it that 9950? Is that?
Yep.
Okay, Councillor Burkett, you want to move?
Mr Mayor, with those changes.
Oh, I need to declare a conflict. I do. Sorry, Cal. So I'd like to declare a conflict on item 14.1. Description is Care Outreach Request Mitchell. Declaring councillor is myself, Joanne Hancock. Person with interest is Stephen Hancock, with a B, yep. Stephen Hancock, who is my brother-in-law.
the final? Sorry. Just. 665
Stephen Hancock is president of the Mitchell Show Society.
Yeah, right, okay. That's theirs, right.
Type of conflict is a declarable conflict of interest. And although I have a declarable conflict of interest, I do not believe a reasonable person could have a perception of bias as the matter at hand is to do with the Mitchell Showgrounds, which is a council-owned facility. Perception of bias as the matter at hand is the Mitchell Showgrounds, which is a council facility. Therefore, I will choose to remain in the meeting. However, I will respect the decision of the meeting on whether I can remain and participate in the decision.
Just we'll give it a second and then we'll... Okay, Councillor Taylor.
I'd like to move. I want to get the wording up.
Scroll down, Phil, if you can, just therefore up.
Just down a little bit, Kel. A bit further.
I think she's just fixing
Just
the
the
wording,
declaration, yeah.
the motion, and then we'll go on to the conflict.
I need the wording so Councillor Hancock can stay in the room.
Yeah, that's it.
That it is in the public interest that Councillor Hancock participates and votes on agenda item 14.1 because a reasonable person would trust that the decision is made in the public interest.
We have a seconder, Councillor Ladbrook. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak? We'll go to the vote. All those in favour? 7-0. Okay, Councillor Burkett, now please go ahead.
I'd like to move that Council 1 waive the fees to the care outreach to use the main shed at the Mitchell Showgrounds and Mitchell Retirement Village from the 16th of November. Just on that, through you, Mr. Mayor, Director, because there's two different dates now, isn't there? Showgrounds and the village have got two different dates, so we might have to add. What was the Showgrounds one?
And through the chair, we were just going to double check those dates to make sure that they're right, because there's 18 days, isn't there?
Yeah, so I've got from Danny Newton, from the Property Management Customer Service Coordinator, I've got the dates for the Mitchell Showgrounds, the 16th of November until the 4th of December.
Right.
And for the Mitchell Retirement Village, I have the 16th of November until the 1st of December.
But you know, how it was, it incorporated, it mightn't be quite as
Yeah, no, I just thought I'd clarify that.
So, just in case, what happens if they go over a day or whatever, you know? Anyway, whatever you'd like to move.
At the end of the day, it's not going to be too big of a drama, I don't think.
I would hope not.
1, waive the fees to the care outreach to use the main shed at the Mitchell Showgrounds from the 16th of the 11th to the 4th of the 12th, and the Mitchell Retirement Village from the 16th of November 2022 to the 1st of December 2022 inclusive, as long as no paying customer requests to use the facility in this time. 2, allocate the fee waiver of $6,657.30 from GL 2887.2412.2132 Community Service Obligation Budget.
Okay, do we have a seconder? Councillor Ladbrook, any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak?
Yes, Mr Mayor. I think this is another great organisation. They do a fantastic amount of work for the people in the bush, and I think in previous years when there's been a drought, things like that, these guys have offered that solace and community spirit. So I think it's a great organisation to support.
Does anyone else wish to speak? I'll speak. I do believe that there's there's still a need. It's great if people can come around and have a chat, meet up with people. We know one of the biggest issues in any community would be loneliness, but also, you know, keeping mental health very healthy. And I think there's lots of benefits in these sorts of programs, and very happy for council to support them any way we can. Does anyone else wish to speak? Does the Mayor wish to sum up? We'll go to the vote. All those in favour? 8-0. Councillor Ladbroke.
And then we've got page 174.
17.1, Live, Work, Play, Stay website. Councillor McMullen.
Yeah, Mr Mayor, I'd like to move...
I've got a conflict.
Oh, sorry.
Please go ahead.
I'd like to declare a conflict on item 17.1. The description is the Live, Work, Play, Stay website. The declaring council is myself. The people with interest in this particular matter are Camille Johnson and Deb Jopic. The particulars of the interest: Camille is a friend, Deb is a friend and a neighbour. The type of conflict is a declarable conflict of interest. And although I have a declarable conflict of interest, I do not believe a reasonable person could have a perception of bias. Therefore, I will choose to remain in the room. However, I will respect the decision of the meeting on whether I can remain and participate in the decision.
Okay, we've just adjourned for 5 minutes. We've got an audio problem. Okay, we'll keep going. Councillor O'Neill, do you want to...
Just for completeness, because of the audio issue, I'll just rehash the conflict. The conflict is in relation to item 17.1. The declaring council is myself. The person of interest is Camille Johnson and Deb Jopic. The particulars of the interest is Camille Johnson is a friend and president of RCAT. Deb Jopic is a friend and neighbour and general manager of RCAT. The type of conflict is a declarable conflict of interest. The action is, although I have a declarable conflict of interest, I do not believe a reasonable person could have a perception of bias. Therefore, I will choose to remain in the meeting. However, I will respect the decision of the meeting on whether I can remain and participate in the decision.
We have Councillor Taylor.
That it is in the public interest that Councillor O'Neill participates and votes on agenda item 17.1 because a reasonable person would trust that the decision is made in the public interest.
Okay, do we have a seconder?
I'll second.
Councillor McMullen. Anybody wish to speak? We'll go to the vote. All those in favour? 7-0. Okay, Councillor McMullen.
Mr Mayor, I'll move... I'll just wait for Kill. Get the... Mr Mayor, I'd like to move that Council note the documentation received from Team Roma Queensland's Connects Committee to acknowledge verbal consent from APLNG in line with Clause 9C of the Worker Transition Agreement and confirm agreement in writing prior to commencing the project. 3. Approve the request to fund the project and draw the required funds, $125,000 from Council's APLNG livability funds. That was it. Yeah.
Councillor Hancock.
Happy to second that, thanks, Mr Mayor.
So I've got a question. Have we actually consulted?
No, I can answer, Mr Mayor.
Yeah, please go ahead.
APLNG won't consult until it's approved by council and approved by resolution for council that is a project we want to do, similar to the last ones.
And through the chair, I just include that by saying is we actually had a direct conversation with APLNG deputation, and they certainly confirmed they acknowledged that conversation at the deputation and also subsequent advice they had from the same group. We have received a verbal indication that they have no issues with the project. We are just asking that they confirm that in writing for us, so that we can make sure that we are compliant with Clause 9C of the Worker Transition Agreement. However, we do have that verbal consent, so we do have the sequential support for the project. The sequence is: 1, council identifies the project; 2, they get consent from APLNG; and 3, we commence. So we do have a motion that identifies the project. We do have verbal consent acknowledging that publicly, and 3, that you're making that final decision to move forward after you've got that confirmation in writing.
So it says confirm the agreement in writing prior to commencing the project. Should it not be that it actually is basically to get the approval and then for us to do it? Or so we haven't got anything in writing that we've done the consultation.
Mr Mayor, like I said, they won't talk to us until we approve that we want to do it.
And that's fine. I've got no problem with the motion. What I'm interested to do, as far as I understand, we have to consult, and obviously then council can make their own decision. But to the letter of the contract, should we not have point 2 with slightly different wording? It wouldn't change what we're actually doing, but it's very much we've got to do the consultation with them first before we make any decision, as far as what I understand. If that's wrong, I'd be happy to be reassured of that. So really, I've got no problem with we making a decision that we consult and then we go ahead with it.
Through the chair, the only thing, I certainly agree with exactly what you're saying, that process of council identification, approval for APLNG, council decision. I do believe through the chair that we actually have consulted with APLNG because we've had a deputation where it's been raised and they've got an indication of what that project looked like in writing. That was given to them at the same time it was given to us. The verbal conversations I had with their manager indicated that they were aware of the project and they didn't have any issues. And through the chair, I think Councillor McMullen's had the same advice verbally. So I do believe we've consulted and they have consented. What we didn't include it with in the other letter that we wrote to them recently, because there were other projects we were wanting them to confirm, is we just need that confirmation back in writing. And my understanding from the APLNG employee, they're just in the process of getting that for us.
Councillor Guthrie.
Just following on from what our CEO has said, I'm just wondering whether we should have subsequent to a deputation held and then to continue with clause. So you're actually saying we did have a deputation. So there was consultation that occurred at the deputation.
So just refreshing my memory, was this project in that last meeting that we had?
It wasn't in the... It hadn't been approved by council, but that was the day I got the letter and I presented to everyone in the room on the day, the letter.
It wasn't in the authorised.
But it wasn't in the authorised.
Yeah, I don't remember it being in there, yeah.
It wasn't in the... That's why this is here. We've got to authorise it before that.
We did discuss it though, Councillor McMullen, with APLNG on the day.
Beg your pardon?
We did discuss this project
that's right,
with them on the day.
And there is a member for Origin on this committee, as well as a representation. Yeah.
But 2 says acknowledge verbal consent from APLNG.
Through the chair supporting the project, is it something as simple as that? Is because that's indeed what I've had indication from the officer, as well as certainly on 2 occasions we've had that saying they don't have any issue with the project. It's in line with their agreement. So if that improves that.
Because all we have to do is we need to consult, don't we? So as long as we've consulted, before we make a decision,
that's right.
Is what. So it's very important that we don't get it the other way wrong.
No, Mr Mayor, we've got to tell them we want to put it on the list.
That's right, but we need to do that before we make a decision. So if we get it...
Well, that's what this is all about. It's up there on writing.
Well...
Mr Mayor,
you've got to look at it in the...
To Councillor Guthrie's point, if you mean, so it should be put there that past tense that we have consulted through a deputation. So that's listed that we have done it.
Through the chair, in line with what the comments are in the room, is acknowledge verbal consent from APLNG at the recent deputation.
Yeah.
I think that was, I'm just trying to think, 31st of August, but I'll certainly...
Just
recent
deputation would do anyway, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Supporting the project. And through the chair, that captures that sequential
17th
process.
of August.
That it's been discussed, they know what we're talking about. They've come back supporting the concept, and what this motion's trying to do is then take that to the next step.
And have we got some emails from them or saying support of it, or they've acknowledged it?
Oh, acknowledge what?
Yeah, from from Origin that they've said.
They won't acknowledge it until we approve it.
No, but what I'm saying
through the chair,
is...
we have asked them to do that, to say you've consented with us verbally, can we please get that confirmation in writing? And the intention of the motion is to reflect that, is that we have that verbal consent, we now need just the confirmation in writing.
So we'll get that in writing before we go ahead with the project.
That's right, that's right.
Righto. Yeah, anything else, Councillor McMullen?
No,
You haven't spoken to it yet.
no, I was going to speak. I'm right to speak.
Yeah, please go
Mr. Mayor,
ahead.
this all came about, as you're aware, I was elected council member on the Queensland Cohorts 2 committee, I think I got the correct. We've had 2 workshops at QUT in Brisbane, and the third one was in Roma at the Origin facility. The presenters, I'll call them, that were giving us all the advice, went through everything that we could sort of come up with, and we in the Maranoa weren't selling ourselves, advertising ourselves good to the best of our ability, so this was all brought about, and it will open it up for all areas of people looking for employment and that to go on there and advertise, and it'll be a one-stop shop, so I think it'll be well worth spending the money on it.
Okay, does anyone wish to speak against the motion?
Got a question.
Please go ahead.
Just wonder, in relation to the resolution, Councillor McMullen, given that it is in fact Roma Commerce and Tourism that will be executing the project, not the Queensland Connects group, it will be RCAD. Should that be in the resolution?
And through the chair, it's probably appropriate if you are going to insert that in the resolution as in dot point through, approve the request from, and it could be Roma Commerce and Tourism.
But the request at this point in time is from Queensland Cohorts Connect team, no.
But that's not an entity.
Eh?
It's not an entity.
That's just an arm, isn't it?
Yeah.
Through the chair, RCAD are auspicing the project.
It's RCAD that the money is going to.
Approve the request to fund the project via, it's not really the word, but via
the request from Roma Commerce and Tourism to fund the project.
It's not from...
It's not funding the project. Can I just make the comment? I think what we need, I'm just making a respectful suggestion, Councillor McMullen. When you look at the actual project brief, maybe you do leave it the way you've got it, which is the approving the request from the project that you're involved in, and have a fourth part to it that says that RCAD is, so there's actually a part in the project about them being prepared to maintain the website by charging a small nominal fee to businesses. So that's bringing them in by the succession planning. So the RCAD, to my reading of this, is actually not that Roma team Queensland Connects, but they've got a very, very strong role in the longevity. So maybe a fourth.
Make it a fourth dot. Well, I'm happy with that. Yeah, add the...
And taken from the attachment from the actual project brief, which is RCAD is willing to maintain the website, charging a small nominal fee to businesses to list their jobs. This will provide income generation to ensure the ongoing costs are covered. So you're then putting succession planning in, or longevity, or where to from.
Just note that RCAD...
So through the chair, just to pick up on the comments in the room, are we saying that RCAT's actually going to deliver the project, but, you know, basically they'll work with Queensland Connects in relation to that? That's their major partner in order to deliver that, but RCAT are the deliverer of the project?
Yes.
So, and again, if it's approving the request and it's not from RCAT, to fund the project, which will be delivered by RCAT, so that you've got a clear resolution that's saying that's their role, that's who's getting you approving the project, it'll be delivered by them.
So therefore, CEO, it should be in point 3, approve the request to fund the project through Roma Commerce and Tourism and draw the required funds, 125,000.
Yes.
You need to put the 125 with the group that it's going to.
Fine, I'm happy with that then, yeah.
Councillor Hancock, happy with that?
Yes, that's really good. Good pick up, Councillor.
Righto. So does someone wish to speak for the motion? Councillor Hancock and then Taylor.
I'm happy to speak for the motion, Mr Mayor. I'm really excited about this project. I think this project will really meet the needs of our community. And we've had many deputations from businesses and organisations who tell us that there is a need for a one-stop shop to be able to find out what is available in Roma and the Maranoa region. So I am just so excited about this project, and I just believe that Roma Commerce and Tourism will actually deliver this project with the utmost professionalism and will do the project justice. And I'd like to acknowledge that there's members who have taken the time to drive out here from the Queensland Connect team because they're so invested in this project. I'd like to thank those team members for all their work involved with this project and for bringing it forward to Council. I'd also like to acknowledge Councillor McMullen and thank him for his representation of Council on this team and being that voice for Council. And so I'd just like to thank him for the time that he's had with this team. Overall, I just am very excited about this project and fully support it and look forward to being able to help promote it in our region and our wider regions.
Councillor Taylor?
I've got nothing left to say now. But I will say that...
Mr Mayor, I'm sorry to do this. I need to expand on my conflict of interest. Just with all the training that we got last week, it's still going around in my head. I'll do a further conflict of interest, unfortunately, for the room, not fortunate that I'm doing it. The item is, as listed, 7.1, the declaring council is myself. The person of interest will be CUC Maranoa and Golden West Apprenticeships. The particulars of the interest are that I'm a non-executive director of both of those entities. The type of conflict is a declarable conflict of interest as they are listed in the letter, tabled on page 175 from the grouping called Queensland Connects. Although I have a declarable conflict of interest, I do not believe a reasonable person could have a perception of bias. Therefore, I will choose to remain in the meeting. However, I will respect the decision of the meeting on whether I can remain and participate in the decision. And I apologise, that was an oversight. I should have captured that with the original declaration.
Okay, Councillor Taylor.
I should know this off by heart, but I don't.
Should we have to re-vote for that? No?
Yeah, Councillor Taylor's doing it.
Oh, yes, I thought you were going, sorry.
Those in the public interest that Councillor O'Neill participates and votes on agenda item 17.1 because a reasonable person would trust that the decision is made in the public interest.
We have a seconder. Councillor Taylor, any opposition?
No,
sorry, Councillor Hancock, any opposition? We'll go to the vote. All those in favour? 7-0. Councillor Taylor.
Oh yes, now back to my role. I too just think this is just a great thing for the Maranoa region in itself. People are worried that RCAT's not sustainable. This is one way to help them on their journey to make us more out there. Again, too, I thank Councillor McMullen for bringing this to the table and representing RCAT at our table for this, or bringing it up as an agenda item. I just think this is a great well, whatever they are, RCAT, they're just great promoters of our town, of our industry, whether it's work or play, and I just wholeheartedly get behind them. I think they're doing half our work for us as a council. I think, you know, they're out there trying to promote our town, you know, our businesses, livability, housing, you name it, all the things they named in their letter to us. So hats off to them, and I hope that we can help them on their journey in the future.
Does anyone else wish to speak? Councillor Burke.
Yeah, Mr Mayor, I think having the one organisation facilitate this is a good thing. They'll offer consistency. The spoke thing has been talked about a lot since I've been on council, and this is probably the first time that I've actually been confident with it. I know with the big rig it was used a lot with the tourism, but I don't think there was that consistency, and I think this will offer that. I'm looking forward to that. It's going to saturate the region and utilise the existing groups. They'd be mad not to, and I think the right people are doing the job over there, and I applaud them for that, and also acknowledge Councillor McMullen, so I'll be supporting this today.
Councillor O'Neill.
Thanks very much, Chair. I'm going to support this today because I think this is headed in the right direction in terms of promoting our region. You just have to turn on Impasia at the moment and see the amount of ads that are coming out of the Northern Territory promoting, Alice Springs as a place to live, work and play. Regional Queensland is no different to other parts of the country that we all know the uniqueness as to why we choose to live here. I'm not born and bred in the Maranoa, but this is the place that I've decided to live, work and raise my family, and I think if we can promote it to attract more people, to grow our community to that, the magic number of 20,000, if you listen to the demographers, that's what we've got to get to be a sustainable regional community, then we need to back initiatives like this. I think the Queensland Connect project has worked, bringing together different organisations that all want to achieve a sustainable outlook for our community has been a winner, and this is a tangible action that's coming from that collective approach. And if it means that we're using some of the APLNG investment to work towards attracting and retaining people into our community, then this just is a win-win. All credit to you, Councillor McMullen, as our representative of Queensland Connects for championing this. I can't wait to see the outcomes and any way that we can support it, I think Council should. So I'm very happy to put my support and vote behind this initiative.
Does anyone else wish to speak? I'll speak. I'll be supporting this today. I do think the biggest challenge is I've certainly seen many websites that have been created that really don't have any serious traffic, and the hardest thing for Roma Commerce will be to actually get that traffic up so it's it really has its own future, and generally I believe all the ones that Council have supported in the past, none of them have got to that. So I think the biggest challenge is whether this will actually get the amount of people as the single source of truth. I do believe if they can do that, it'll be a very beneficial project. So I'll look forward to see how it goes in the next period of time when it's delivered, and actually see how it's continuing to work, and whether it's just one of many, many thousands of websites that don't have a lot of traffic, or whether it's embraced by the whole community, because if it does, it'll be a very, very positive thing for the Maranoa. Does anyone else wish to speak? Does the mover wish to sum up?
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Just a couple of things. There was some questions asked recently about the ongoing costs. I dropped a copy of each councillor's desk this morning, just to give you an idea of what the ongoing costs are. And secondly, if this gets up today, it'll be the end of, well, not the end of the era, but the end of the project. You can tell the final end will be on Friday the 2nd of December, when a part of, I don't think the whole committee is going, but some of us are going to meet with the ministers and the Department of Tourism, Innovation and Sporting, the QUT representatives, all meeting in Parliament House on the Friday the 2nd of December. So that'll be, if we can probably push them ministers then for some more money.
Are you going to that?
Yeah.
Good.
I'm not, I know most of us are going. I can't remember exactly how many. A couple. Everyone that's here, everyone that's sitting there, wasn't sure. Thanks.
Okay, on that note, we'll go to the vote. All those in favour? 8-0. We'll adjourn for morning tea. 17.2, McGrath Park, Roma. I'd like to move that Council liaise with the resident who has indicated an interest to work with Council if the identified land is approved for beautification. Be provided with a full report to confirm the outcomes of the discussions with the resident, as well as the estimate to install 8 pop-up sprinklers on timers, allowing seeding of couch grass, estimate to install a football goalpost, confirmation of ongoing costs for Council to maintain and mow the grassed area and the remainder of the park, Any other potential opportunities identified by staff? And I'll put another point in, and to have discussions with service groups about the ability to complete some of the works if possible. Okay, we've got a question, have we? Please go ahead.
So this is a council park?
It used to be, but I think council withdrew it as a council park, and now the bore is there, but it used to be a council park and the kids used to play in it.
And we just decided not to do that anymore?
Yeah, that was a previous council before this council.
Was there any reason why they decided not to?
You'd have to ask the council at the time.
Is that up in the Housing Commission area?
Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
So
Councillor
just my question
Guthrie.
following on from your question is, so who looked after it and who mows the lawn, and is it actually, it's just a plot, is it?
Yeah, I would imagine there is a council board there, but this is only looking at a smaller part of it for the improvements plus mowing it, because there's probably more children in the area than there was in the past, and not all parents would want them to cross the busy road to go to the skate park.
I just have a comment.
I didn't actually have a look at it, but is the bore fenced off so nobody can get in there?
Councillor Ladbroke?
I remember this park growing up, and there used to be a lot of kids. We used to go up there. There used to be, 50, 100 kids be in that park. Yep. And it was always lawned, and football posts, everything there, where you drive past it now and it's just a mess, really. Which is, and there's a lot of children up there that need to do things besides just walk the streets. So I think that'd be a wonderful idea.
Councillor Hancock?
Just on the basis of the discussion, as part of the report to come back, I would like to see the report that was put to council to decommission the park and the reasons behind that, because I think to be able to make this decision, I want to fully understand why a previous council made the decision to decommission this park. Was it actually on resident feedback? Like, was there trouble happening there? Was it? And I don't know, and I'm just saying, to be able to make this decision for me, I want to understand why it was decommissioned, because that actually might have been from a community perspective as well, or there might be some other reasons for that. So I was just wondering, as part of that report, CEO, if we could have, if we can try and find those details as to why it was decommissioned in the first place.
So CEO, does that need to be in the report, or is that something you could just bring the old report back?
Yes, certainly. I can take that on notice and provide that, circulate that to council.
If council could find it, because I'd imagine, was it before your time, Councillor O'Neill?
I can't recall. I mean, the only conversations I can remember having about McGrath Park was when we were deciding where to put the dog park, whether that was where it is now or at McGrath Park. But I'm nearly going to say it was Roma Town Council that decommissioned the park.
A long time ago.
But we know councillors of that time, so we could ask them. But there should be a report, because from my understanding, it was a formal decision to decommission because investment stopped in upkeep, and other than some mowing. I understand some mowing happens there. Mayor, while I've got the floor, I requested through S170A and have received the information who the customer request relates to. For completeness, other councillors should be made aware of that, because it's in your report, and just on the off chance that there is a conflict. And I know that because I put it in, but and I don't have a conflict.
So did that get shared with other councillors, the 178?
I don't believe so. It was sent to me.
Would you mind emailing it to other councillors?
Do other councillors want to receive it?
Well, yes, because how do we know if we have a conflict?
You don't have a conflict if we don't discuss it, that's what I'm saying. Once you raise,
it's in the report, though.
Where is it? Whether we did any programs at the park, wasn't it?
It's in the report.
No, we didn't.
No, that wasn't the request. I spoke to the customer this morning.
Yeah, so it's very clear, I think, in the motion, but I'll lay this on the table.
Mr. Nick, I just got another question.
Oh, please, question, so we don't have to come back.
When you're talking about service groups, this park is the equivalent to the Rotary one that we discuss. It's a similar type.
Well, yeah, but it doesn't have any infrastructure. And we're talking about only 8 pop-ups.
Yeah. No, but when you said service group, say like potentially lines or someone like that.
It could be lines. It could be someone says we'll put the 8 pop-ups in. Someone else might do something else for it. Like there's just one. What I'm putting forward is one football goalpost because it used to be there. So the kids can have a bit of grass to play on. So yeah. Okay.
Just to clarify what Councillor O'Neill mentioned, there's no names mentioned in this.
References a customer request in it.
There's no name in here.
No, I accept that, but it references a customer request. I've shared it now.
Can everyone have a look at their emails? Because if you can read it and understand it, we can keep going with the report, the item.
The other thing with the S170 is, didn't we just have that you know, it only goes back to the councillor that asks the question?
Yeah, but then that councillor can share it.
Okay.
Well, especially if it's significant too.
I've often put a S170 on behalf and included all the councillors.
I haven't got it here.
I haven't got it yet.
It hasn't come through yet.
Well, I've sent it.
Everything's a bit slower in Mitchell.
Oh, yeah, just waiting for that.
Yeah, it should. If you refresh now, you'll have it. There you go.
I am just coming in now.
Too much business going on around. See, Councillor Ladbroke?
It would be.
No, that gentleman. That's for a different area, but isn't it?
That actually doesn't say anything about this.
Yeah, it's a different place.
And that's a 2021.
Scroll down. I asked for the specific customer request that is in the report, and that is the S170A that's been returned.
Has everyone scrolled down and seen it?
Doesn't make anything clear.
The park though. Stormwater drainage and water loss.
But it is the same person.
It is the same person.
Okay. Well, it's not the same request.
No.
No.
No, okay.
Okay, does everyone understand who it is?
So that customer request then isn't relative to this report?
It is the same person, and I think it's about things in the same area for completeness. But I'm moving this as a councillor report, and why I haven't got any details is if it gets supported, then it will come back in the report, in the next report.
Do you think, Mayor, would you be willing to include that it comes to a briefing, and that way we may be able to include on that day briefing a site visit for all 9 of us to go and actually have a look at it and what infrastructure's up there?
Not zero.
No, I know that, but we can actually go and visualise the park as a group, we've done with other.
Can do. On a briefing day or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just on that motion, I might put in an extra line that if the decision be brought back to council to decommission the park, if it is reasonably available without the excessive use of council staff time or CEO's time if we're doing that, because I don't believe we should spend a lot of time on it if you can't find it, rather than going through all records and...
It'd have to be 20 years.
So, through the chair, it is a park, it is council's park, it doesn't have a service level. It doesn't have a service level, so this is what we're determining, isn't it, really? Do we add it to the existing service level, or do we find another solution? But at this stage, we could, you've asked that we be provided a further report, but again, it might be potentially having another dot point, you know, the cost of the service level, of the addition of the service level, if that would help. It's just so that when the report comes back, you understand it's still our park. If we haven't got an existing service level on it, if we put one on it, what would be the cost of doing that? Because we would obviously be looking at that either within the current budgetary framework or maybe adding a bit more money in that.
Yeah, but 4 is about, Councillor Hancock was asking, you know, to get the information about what decision was made, and the point I'm actually saying, if it's a massive undertaking, like if we can pull it up in our system, great, but if we can't, then it wouldn't come back. That's what I'm willing to put forward. So if it's easily available. So 4, it's a bit blocked by the camera. Instigate information about an earlier council decision about decommissioning the park if easily available.
I'll second that, Mr Mayor.
Righto, we got a seconder.
Just in point 1, it doesn't make sense to say liaise with the resident in who has. I don't think the in should be there.
Yeah.
Righto, we'll get rid of that. And I don't know whether we need it in there, but I'm happy to bring it to the next, well, if we can, CEO, just to go and have a look at it. But there's a bit of work that the officers need to do. Now, did you say you wanted to bring about the costing of the service level, or are you going to do that anyway in the report?
Through the chair, I think that's probably a useful outcome to have that. If we can find the decommissioning information, that would make sense that we could marry that up with if you did recommission it.
All right, okay. Well, we're sort of going on probably on a different service level.
That's fine.
Because we're just talking about part of the park, get that going, and just mow the rest of it so it's tidy. Okay, so I'll speak to the motion. So Councillor Ladbrook was the seconder, Kel. Yeah, so I do think that we do have, sadly, some issues about socio-economic issues in our towns, and one of the big things talking to mothers is giving the kids something to do, and anything to do that's not a screen I think is a great use of time. So if we can get them playing footy or whatever sport, you know, getting them running around, feeling like that they have the park again. The people that put in all of that housing thought there should have been a park there, so I do believe that we all know that get a lot of feedback, the closer your local park is, the more chance you're going to go to it. So I certainly believe the more parks we should have, the more green space, and I believe we can find a cost-effective outcome. I would be hoping council is on the journey to increase productivity with the same amount of people, with larger machines and modernised council. So I do believe cost should not be a prohibitor, and maybe one of our service groups may even consider doing it as a project to make it a real community project to bring back McGrath Park for the benefit of the children and the residents of, in this case, Roma. Does anyone wish to speak against the motion or for the motion? Then we'll go to the vote. All those in favour? 8-0. What's the next page?
181.
Thank you. Okay. 17.3, 2022 LGAQ Bush Council Convention. Councillor Hancock.
I move that council receive and note the report as presented.
We have a seconder, Councillor Taylor. Does anyone wish to speak to the motion?
Yes, thanks, Mr Mayor. On the 26th to the 27th of July, Councillor Taylor and I represent council at the LGAQ Bush Councils Convention. It's held in Barcaldine, and it was a fantastic time where you got to network with, and more importantly, learn from other councils, other bush councils who are facing similar issues as we are, being council in the bush. And it was with, you know, that is actually time to learn from other councils. We loved listening to, for instance, the mayors from other towns who got up and they really promoted their region and what they were doing in their region, some of their challenges and some of their success stories. And that really was a fantastic time to think about if some of those things would work within our region. I did include in the report the housing initiative that was happening through the Regional Development Australia, Townsville and Northwest Queensland Housing Project, and it's a fantastic initiative where a group of that group is getting together and they're actually building a whole lot of demountable houses and bringing that into the region for a potential housing solution. So that was really, really interesting. The other thing that I found personally interesting was King Co Company did a session on conflicts of interest for councillors. Specifically, they did one on procurement, and I found personally that that was very, very interesting, and learnt some more skills to help myself as a councillor to manage the conflicts of interest. So I'd just like to thank Council for the opportunity to go and represent the Maranoa Regional Council at this event, and I honestly believe that this is an opportunity for councillors to engage in professional development. We don't get that opportunity to do that, and so when you go to these events outside your region, you learn from other people and other councillors who've been in the industry for a long time, and that is professional development, and therefore it provides an outcome for the community, which I believe is a well-earned investment for the community money to pay for us to go to these conferences. So yeah, it was very, very successful.
Okay, does anyone else wish to speak? Councillor Taylor?
I just also would like to say thank you for the fact that I could go, and as Councillor Hancock said, I thought it was amazing. Like, I didn't know what to expect because I've never done anything like this before. So for me, when the Mayor's saying about the park being, you know, the cost should not be prohibitor, well, I believe that this is the same. I think as many councillors that can and want to go to these things, there should be budget for that, because honestly, I can't tell you how much I learnt from just listening. I mean, I'm not the biggest talker, so listening to me was a great thing. All the presenters that spoke were really good, and as Councillor Hancock said, listening to the mayors and the councillors. I mean, a lot of the mayors let their councillors do the talking, so that was really good as well. So yeah, I highly recommend that if we ever have and should put in the budget and sort of forward think the next time. I just did ask, was it every 2 years? Because I really think at budget time we should look at that and ask that question so that we do have enough in the budget for anyone that would like to go, because I honestly, I thought it was amazing. And thank you for letting me go.
Okay, does anyone else wish to speak? I'll speak. I don't believe that everyone should go. I don't believe that's a good use of taxpayers' money, or in our case, residents' money, ratepayers' money, I should really say, but I suppose rates are a tax. I do believe that we have a common sense approach where we seem to share it around. Different councillors go at different times. I think that's the best way. I do believe councillors can give a report and do the highlights, and that can be passed on, and I think it's better to be fiscally conservative with all of these things come at a cost. So I do believe it's a good result if 1 or 2 councillors go and then bring back the information. Okay, does anyone else wish to speak?
Mr Mayor, I was going to ask the question but before you started, but
yeah, please go
I'm not
ahead.
sure whether Councillor Taylor was meaning at once or everyone have a chance to go when you said that. But
Or either or, depending on our budget. But yeah, I just think you can't measure what you get out of it in the money value, in the money part of it. I just think, you know, I mean, I wouldn't expect if all 9 of us wanted to go, I think that you know, that could be looked at. I'm just saying that it was invaluable to me, and I just think if anybody gets an opportunity to go, they should put their hand up and go.
Councillor O'Neill.
Yeah, thanks, Mr Mayor. I'm happy to support the motion of receiving and noting the report. Thanks to Councillor Hancock and to Taylor for representing council. Of course, I attended this particular convention as well, but in a private capacity in another role as a speaker at the event. I mean, I think these types of forums where particularly all of the bush and regional councils come together is invaluable. LGAQ recognise that there are you know, issues that are just relevant for councils west of the Great Divide, the smaller councils, that may get overshadowed at at the annual conference, and so this is solely tailored for councils just like ours. We very proudly hosted the Bush Councils before Barcaldine, so a number of years ago now, and it was really wonderful to see a lot of returned councillors attend. I mean, we can have the debate for another time in terms of, you know, allocation of resources and support, but there are other regional councils of our size and smaller where there were quite a number of councillors in attendance, as I'm sure Councillor McMullen and Guthrie would have seen at the LGAQ conference in Cairns as well. I just think we've got to be smart about these things. There's an opportunity to learn. I always get a lot out of attending these conferences, but I welcome the report here today, and it's pleasing to see that you've attached some of the presentations that stood out to you, Councillor Hancock, in relation to your attendance. So in respect to the recommendation, I'm more than happy to vote in favour of receiving and noting the report.
Through the chair, I just would highlight, you know, certainly and appreciate the debate, is that you do set aside a budget each year. You do make individual resolutions when these things come up, and it's the LGAQ conference, it's Bush conference, it's any professional development training, it's EMUs, all those kind of things. What I'd also suggest is what you're also talking about, how do you make these venues and events accessible to everyone? It may not always be possible for councils to fund going, but potentially the use of more technology, video and whatever, to be able to allow people to participate if they can't go, if they physically can't go. And I think that that's also something that could be advocated for with Bush councils, but it could be also advocated for with LGAQ, because it is significant, not the cost of the conferences, but certainly the travel and accommodation by the time all that comes together. But certainly hear that everyone's saying very valuable.
Okay, does the mover wish to sum up?
Thanks, Mr Mayor. I agree with Councillor Taylor, and as I noted in my report, that this is a professional development for your councillors. We don't get the opportunity to do much professional development, and this is an opportunity for us to do that. And I actually agree. I think that it should be seen as an investment into your community, where your councillors go from outside your region, and actually you're promoting the Maranoa region. Every time you step out of your region, you're promoting the Maranoa region and what we do great. So it's actually not only about listening and hearing and developing and bringing those ideas back to council, it's actually about promoting our region and making sure that every time you get in front of at these events, you get the chance to speak to state and federal members. You get to speak to people who might be sitting on grant commissions. So when you're looking at putting in grant opportunities and they see the Maranoa Regional Council, they can put a name to it. This is the opportunity to promote our area outside our region. And so that stuff is invaluable. It is actually an investment to our community. And so I would just encourage council to look at it as an investment. And the other thing I'd like to say is you don't get the full experience if you're not there, and so it is really important. It's also these conversations happen around morning tea or lunch. It's not just at the within the conference as well, and so I can't recommend that enough to council. So once again, thank you for that opportunity.
Okay, on that note, we'll go to the vote. All those in favour? All those against? 7-1 if I can call for a division. Item 17.4, 2022 LGAQ Annual Conference Final Outcomes. Do we have a mover? Councillor Guthrie.
Mr Mayor, I'd like to move that council receive and note the endorsed resolutions, the final outcomes report for the 2022 LGAQ Annual Conference as circulated to all councillors on the 26th of October 2022.
Okay, do we have a seconder? Councillor O'Neill. Any opposition? Or you got a question?
No, I'm happy to second it, but I've got a question as well. Just in relation to the report, I note that that's the resolutions, and thank you for sending that through, and I've had a look through. is there another report coming in terms of the findings and the other?
If you hold your breath for a minute, I'm going to share. I've got it written here.
Sorry, you've got a what?
I've got a commentary that I'm going to share with you that follows on.
Oh, it's a verbal report, not a written report. Thank you.
So please go ahead, Councillor Guthrie.
Okay, I made the choice to actually send it via email because of the fact that there were many hundreds of pieces of paper and I thought it was better to conserve paper. I would like to say that it was a very enjoyable conference and Councillor McMullen and I did attend at the Cairns Convention Centre. We took a number of different resolutions on behalf of the ratepayers of the Maranoa. So everything that we went as councillors for our particular council. And it was lovely to see that all except one of those particular motions were joint, which means that they weren't just of particular note to the Maranoa Council, they were also of note to a number of other councillors, all of which were supported. The one that was ours, there was one resolution that we presented, and it was actually the better engagement in mobile black spot program projects, and it was passed unanimously 156-0. So on behalf of each of those that we had shared through resolution that were then forwarded on to the LGAQ for inclusion, you will see in the email that was sent the outcome of that. And I do draw people's attention to that document. Made very interesting reading.
Okay, does anyone wish to speak against the motion? Or for the motion?
Just got a follow-up question, if I can.
Please
a second.
Go ahead.
So my question wasn't before about the resolutions. We've received that. Okay. I meant more about the entire program. What other findings you may have drawn from your attendance.
Are you saying anecdotal highlights of what we actually were part of? Is that what you're saying?
The debate is, and on the motions, is just one small part of the overall conference program. All the other things you attended, are you bringing back a report, similar to what Councillor Hancock did, to share with us what you got out of the other presentations?
Well, if you're happy to tell me exactly what you're asking for, you've received the report. It was sent to you as an email. Are you asking for me personally what was the highlight? Is that what you're asking for?
Well, correct me if I may have the wrong email. The email that I saw was the outcomes of the endorsed resolutions at the conference. I'm talking about all the other sessions that you would have attended, listening to presentations from X, Y, Z, the remote area councils versus the regional council get together. Like, is there other stuff? Well,
we received that when we actually nominated Councillor McMullen and I to go. So there was actually a program that was attached, and there was a copy that was put in pigeonholes that then I carried and read and wrote all over.
Yeah, that's the program. I'm meaning, what did you get out of those presentations to share back to the councillors that weren't there? Just like that RDA housing initiative. Are there things that you want to bring back to council to share as part of your report and attendance other than the resolutions?
Well, what I will do is I'll talk to Councillor McMullen, and if there's anything that we see as worthy to bring back as a motion, we will continue to do that.
So I understand what you're asking.
I'm still not sure what you're asking for.
But just so I can understand, like for instance in the report before, is there examples where it was done in the report before from Councillor Hancock where she made those comments, or
no, just the stuff that you learn. Like Councillor Hancock referred to the RDA thing. I just wanted to know, is there others? Because we didn't go. I can see the things that you went to if I go and get the program. But what did you get out of it? Like, is there any? Yeah.
So you're actually asking for the highlight of the 3 days from my point of view. Okay, that would have been the address from the from the actual the conflict of interests, and also for the outcome of the recent review of the Office of the Independent Assessor.
Okay.
So, Councillor O'Neill, so you haven't asked the same thing about the Bush Council, or
no,
is
I got
because you were
because it was it.
But
there's presentations there.
Yeah, but that's like part of the program. Where is the feedback? Was it because you were there and you understood what?
Well, I was there, but it was also, there were a couple of, like those presentations, you didn't get, did you? Unless they were attached to the report.
But what I'm trying to understand, do you want something more than than what is like in the last one to understand what the question is for Councillor Guthrie.
I'm happy for verbal. Like Councillor Guthrie just highlighted the fact that the thing that she got out of it the most was the findings out of the OIA investigation. That's worthy of sharing with council.
Can I actually just ask you, what was the one that you found the most beneficial? Out of anything that you were there for?
So I attended in a private capacity again, but I didn't go to all the things that you went to.
I just thought a mutual sharing of we're getting feedback as to what you actually benefited from.
I didn't. Oh, well, I presented on the Country University Centre and then I left.
Okay, well, we'll keep going with the motion. So had the mover's spoken to it. Does anyone else wish to speak to the motion? Councillor O'Neill.
So I'm happy to support it. Thank you for sharing the endorsed resolutions. I think it's important to get those back so the councillors can have a look over it. Thank you for sharing that you spoke in favour of those on the ones that were endorsed by council. I think it's incredibly important to have representatives there to exercise not only a vote on behalf of council but also speak in favour of resolutions that originate from this table. And so thank you for sharing that information.
Okay, does anyone else wish to speak? I'll speak. I'd like to thank Councillor Guthrie and Councillor McMullen for representing council at the annual state conference. I do believe, you know, it's very valuable, and I do believe we have a very solid and sensible approach of sending a couple of councillors. It is significant cost, and I do believe that they have done a great job representing council, and I'll certainly be supporting this receive and note about the final outcomes. Okay, does anyone else wish to speak?
I would just like to say it would have been nice if you would have thanked the other two councillors who went to Bush Council. Like, that's a bit unfair.
I don't think... Do you want to speak to the motion?
No, I don't.
Okay, so does anyone else wish to speak? Does Councillor Guthrie want to sum up?
Just that it was a full 3 days and it was very beneficial, and I did enjoy the experience, and I do thank councillors for their confidence in allowing and enabling and encouraging Councillor McMullen and I to attend.
Okay, on that note, we'll go to the vote. All those in favour? 8-0. Okay, we're moving.
Was there one in here we had to go back to?
Yeah,
We've got the information on the lease.
yeah, through the chair.
Oh, that email, that was the committee for the...
Through the chair, I have circulated the name of the committee members for the Roma Neighbourhood Centre.
Excellent. It's awesome.
We'll just adjourn for a minute to get the information.
Yep, 8-1.
Righto. Now we're on to late open.
Do this one?
Oh, that's right. Yeah, no,
Page
everyone's...
48.
Page 48, thank you.
Finish with that one, I think.
So everyone's got that information?
Yep.
Okay, so we've moved that. Okay, so... Okay, so I will speak to this motion. Do you have a question?
Just based on the information that's been shared, it lists yourself as a committee member. Is that correct?
No, a member. A member of the, not a committee member.
Yeah.
I wish to be...
The CEO saying you're an observer, but you're saying you're a member.
I'm happy to be a member, which we're allowed to be a member of an association, but I'm not on the executive or on the committee. So not treasurer, secretary, president, any of those things.
Just for completeness too, it's Brendan Wyman. There's just an N missing off the...
Oh, that name.
Yeah, I'll just check the phone number to see if it's...
So I expect to be that I would be a member of the Neighbourhood Centre, but not on the committee.
And
No executive roles.
who is the committee of that list? Like what roles are on
Well, they've got president, vice president, treasurer, secretary on the...
that they're a committee on their own?
Yeah, they're the executive, which obviously if I was in that, I'd have a conflict and couldn't be in the room. So
through the chair, the request was for the list of the committee members in relation to conflicts of interest. I certainly can ask the question, has the group met to elect the executive? I do believe they may have.
Yeah, no, they have. They've definitely nominated him.
And they've had a subsequent meeting.
Okay, so we'll just adjourn to get that information. So we're moving on to L1, Landholder Advice, Redevelopment Activity on Rural Land. Page 2 on the late agenda. Okay. Landholder Advice Redevelopment Activity on Rural Land. I would like to move that Council 1A write to rural landowners to make them aware that changes in land use can trigger long-term rating category changes, and as a result, due consideration and advice, or put legal advice, should be taken up front to understand these impacts. B, include this advice as part of rating mail out in early 2021.
23.
That's very hard to do.
Sorry,
But
apologies for that. What was that?
it's just page 2.
Made out in early 2023.
Yeah,
Apologies,
so-
our next rating notices go out in February.
Yeah, so what I would actually putting forward is that we would send it out now, and we'd send it out in the next rating category as well, because I think it's very important for people to understand this. B would include this advice also as part of rating mail out in early 2023. Yes?
I just have a question.
Yep.
So, Mr. Mayor, what's triggered this item number?
Well, we have had, as you've been aware, gas-related projects in the past that have changed land use, and now we have renewable projects that perhaps are on the horizon, and I'm really concerned that landowners don't understand if they have a change of land use on their property. They need to get really good legal advice to understand that, because it is not rural land anymore if they change the
That's the
use.
wind things.
It could be any renewables, it can be any projects that change it, and they really need to understand that.
Yep.
Councillor Taylor, then O'Neill.
Can I just also, maybe we could put something in about amalgamating blocks, because that also affects their rates.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I think the more we put that in, the better it is. Councillor O'Neill.
I was just going to ask, I'm not a rural landowner, but in the last rate notice, we asked that a letter go out in relation to the amalgamation and loss of capping issues. Did that go out?
Yes, through the chair, it did. We still have people that are still not doing that diligence ahead of time, and I think we've sent out about a list of 15 supplementaries
can
already.
I just indicate I've got a conflict of interest if you start talking about that?
So is it possible, because I'm not a rural landowner, I didn't receive that letter, could that be shared with the councillors, the copy of that letter that went out to all rural landowners in terms of the amalgamation?
Yeah, through the chair, I certainly can get our rates.
We asked for it to be done. So.
CEO, is it your understanding it happened, or do we definitely know it happened?
Well, it's my understanding because they told me that they sent it out with the rates. So.
But you might not have seen it, so they have to take that on notice.
So again, there
Follow
was
up if I can,
there
just
was
in
a
terms
draft
of a
letter.
question. Is your intent to write to the landowners to make them aware of it and encourage them to go and seek their own independent legal advice?
Correct.
Then why would we then point B, which says include this advice. Well, what we're asking for them, what we're encouraging them is to go and get their own legal advice. We're not getting legal advice to send out, are we? Because that's what that implies.
No, but B is we'll do it twice. So the clarity is I'd like to get it done ASAP and then do it next year.
So maybe it's include the above communication as part of the rating mail out in early 2020. It should be 2023. 23, yeah. So it's just communication, not advice. Is that right?
Okay. And that was my comment, that confusing is the word advice used twice when actually refers to different types of information.
I think I'm on your blind side here.
Please go ahead.
So situations like we had down south of here where someone might get 3 semi-loads of gravel and the place could be whatever size, 50,000 acres, and they take off a half an acre of 3 semi-loads of gravel, that changes the whole rating. Is that for a period of time or for the rest of their life?
Well, whilst the land use is being used for that, and what we've got to do, and I do think it needs to say renewable projects, it needs to say gas projects and examples, because people need to understand that.
Well, I got the feeling on that situation, the deal fell through because it was going to cost the landowner forever.
I think what Mr Mayor's putting forward, and I fully agree with it, when the gas boom hit, a lot of people weren't aware that when a camp or anything went on their place, their rates went up. No, but they weren't aware.
Yeah.
And with all the renewables going on, I think he's trying to get on the front foot.
I'm happy. I'm happy to second it. I was just clarifying the time.
I'll tell you I can talk to yours later on.
Yeah.
Because, I don't know.
And it was probably, and this gentleman probably did his due diligence. Yeah.
So no, and I'm happy, and I think we should also put in there that we list the sorts of examples so customers understand.
Yeah, because
you've got to give them examples of it, otherwise they might not understand. Are you happy with that?
Yeah, because that, like, to me, people wouldn't be aware of that. If they had a 60, 70,000 acre property and they're taking gravel off 2 acres, that's costing that whole place. So you'd have to put those examples in to make them aware.
And, yeah. Okay, so have we got anything in there, Kel, for that?
I don't recall putting it in.
Examples, yeah. Okay, so if we're going to do that, someone said they might have a conflict, so I want to do a separate motion. So no one's got a conflict with this one, I don't think. So we might just take that out and we'll do a separate motion. Okay, so I'll speak to the motion. Yeah, this is an example that we might have a development. I'm certainly not against development, but giving landowners and basically warning them to get good legal advice. It might sound fantastic when they're getting great compensation, but obviously council needs to do its own rating based on the land use, and some land use rating can be very significant on the land, and you do have situations where the developer or the owner of the land may be in receivership, and then all of the infrastructure and the land use is still there, and it can go back onto the owner of the land. So this is a really important thing we get on the front foot and make people aware, and they get really good legal advice about it. I don't think it should be something that will stop anything happening, but I think they need to mitigate the risk so they can protect their rural land use, on obviously, what they're doing there. So, yeah. Okay, now does anyone else wish to speak?
Did we get a second?
Yeah, Councillor Burkett did. Okay, no one wants to speak? We'll go to the vote. All those in favour? 8-0. Okay, now, did you want to move a motion? Someone else wanted to move, and do you have a conflict, Councillor Guthrie? Or?
I don't. Not for amalgamations, I don't.
You don't? Oh, right, okay. Does someone want to put that in there?
Are you going to move it?
Yeah, I can move.
Please go ahead, Councillor Taylor.
I'd like to move the council right to landholders, rural landholders, to make them aware that the changes in amalgamating trigger long-term rating category changes, and as a result, due consideration and legal advice should be taken up front by landholders to understand these impacts. Does that sound right?
Yes. Good.
And include the above communication as part of the rating in early 2023.
Mr Mayor, can I just ask Councillor, I agree with what you said, Councillor Taylor, but not only amalgamations, it can be your original rates notice and a partner passes and you take your partner off the rates notice, the same thing's happening then. It can be any change of circumstances.
And I think we probably could give some examples in the correspondence of what has triggered, because people may not be aware of that, Councillor McMullen, the nuance.
Changes in circumstances, including examples.
Amalgamation is definitely one, but I mean, it doesn't.
That's a good point. Yeah.
I just have a question, Mr Mayor. Wouldn't the solicitors be brought up to speed with that sort of stuff or not?
People don't know. People don't know.
But when they're doing their searches and all that stuff, wouldn't the solicitor...
Councillor Ladbroke, it doesn't have to... No. Some of these people have owned these blocks for years and all of a sudden the department say, oh, we're going to amalgamate them. They could have had them for 10 years, so they're not going to go to the solicitor then because they don't know. They just get the amalgamation, the new notice in the mail. Right. If you're purchasing, if you are purchasing, and they should be able to advise.
And even, Mr Mayor, to add to that, if somebody passes away and the land is owned in joint names and one partner's then deceased, it may be that then it has a flow-on effect because of the DNR amalgamating.
I got one I just put in the other day for a landowner. His partner passed, so it automatically became, he went, but because they had another block in different name, one name there and two here, bang, and the whole thing hit the roof.
Mayor, I can't recall, I think this is a resolution, and if not, there was substantial conversation about it when we've had these issues presented to us, but I've got it in my mind that we have included in a resolution around this that we would work with AgForce and we would write to the department raising these concerns to get a legislative change. In fact, I think we even included that we would write to our local state member. So, a CEO, there could in fact be a resolution that might be being worked on, and if not, we should do that. But I'm pretty confident there was something that went through a council meeting.
I don't remember AgForce at all.
No. We did discuss it. We definitely discussed it.
One of them there was. Okay, so we've got a mover and seconder for Councillor O'Neill. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak? We're going to go to the vote. All those in favour? 8-0.
Mr Mayor, I've got a conflict of interest on the next one when we go to start it. L2.
Okay, and maybe we might lay this on the table because I wanted to see unless it hasn't come, the actual quotes for this one, and I don't think they're in there.
We haven't got it. No, it hasn't come on email either. No, if that's what you asked for.
So I'll lay it on the table till later in the meeting to get.
Oh no, it might actually be a few pages in.
Yeah, no, we do.
I thought it was
the two different quotes, is it?
Page 9.
Not the actual physical quote, just the price.
No, I want to see the quote. What's in it? How many metres of whatever?
Oh.
Yep.
Do you want to see the
Detail to make sure that we've got the best long-term solution.
Not that I needed to make a decision, but I agree.
Mr Mayor, it's in the report.
No, but
the detail of the quote. What are we getting for that amount of money?
How do you mean, what are we getting?
The description of work.
Well, it's here.
No. Yeah.
475 metres.
That's the price.
No, metres.
No, but I mean, you're talking about breakdown, aren't you?
Councillor McMahon, I'd stop the conversation because you've indicated that you want to declare something.
Yeah, but it's an open.
Yeah, but you need to deal with that first.
So through the chair, who did you request that information to? I just want to make sure they're getting it for you.
Yeah, no, I did, when we were talking about it, but that's fine.
Did you want me to make?
Yeah, no, I will. Councillor McMullen, do you want to do yours now while we're on it, and then I can lay it on the table? Do your conflict.
You've laid it on the table.
No, it
hasn't been voted on.
Okay. Do you want to do it now so it's done?
Do you want more detail than that's on here?
Yeah, I'll have a look at that while Councillor McMullen's
Okay,
doing his conflict.
Item L2, description. Request for quote VP 332252, Watermain construction, Northern Road, there's an N missing there, please, Kel, and Hangar Drive, Roma, Queensland, 4455. I'm declaring councillors myself, Jeff McMullen, person of interest myself. I have a business arrangement with Roma Earth Moving Proprietary Limited as I run cattle on one of their paddocks. It's a declarable conflict of interest, and I'll leave the room while the matter is discussed and voted on.
Okay, so I move that this lay on the table to get more information about the actual quotation information to do with the amounts that are in the report, where there was
material labour breakdowns.
Yeah, and also the spec, because I couldn't see what the difference is. Oh, Councillor McMullen, you were heading out.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, you were going to lay it on the table.
Yeah, that's right. Well, that's true. So, yeah, basically to do with the two amounts in the report where there was a change of scope, to see both of those.
And so that's the...
1 and 2.
Yep.
No, 1 and 2.
Yeah, 1 and 2. Thank you.
Okay, all those in favour? All those against? 6-1 if I can call for a division. He might have gone to the restroom, eh?
He didn't, he just went out that door.
Oh, did he?
We're in confidential anyway, right?
Before we go to confidential, Mr Mayor, can we do some conflicts of interest?
Yeah, sure.
Is that the last one? Or was that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're going to do conflicts. Councillor Guthrie.
I'll just wait for Kelly to bring them up. Can I just mention that I did do a conflict of interest a fortnight ago with regard to the Roma Saleyards contract, and I have previously recorded the reason for that conflict, and that will continue even regardless of the training that we've done, because my circumstances were of a particular nature based on my daughter-in-law. This one here will be a conflict of interest for C3, request of review of rate assessment, 150-20548. The declaring councillor is myself. Sorry? The person with the interest is myself, Julie Guthrie, my husband, Ross Guthrie, and my son, Nick Guthrie, who operate as Guthrie Pastoral Group. Particulars of the interest is that even though I don't have a conflict for this particular rate assessment, I am very aware that a request for a review of a rate assessment has recently been submitted on behalf of Guthrie Pastoral Group, and a reasonable person might think that bias might prevail if I participated in today's agenda item or agenda matter. Type of conflict is a declarable conflict of interest, and I will choose to leave the room while the matter is discussed and voted on.
I've got a conflict there too, Mayor Golder.
I probably will. I don't know what we're doing this balance.
Okay. Councillor Ladbrook.
I have a conflict with LC1. The description is Bassett Park replacement of ladies' toilets and shower block project. The declaring councillor is myself, Councillor Ladbrook. The person of interest related party is myself and my wife Alana. Particulars of interest: my wife is president of the Roma Show Society, and I am a member of the Roma Turf Club. Both groups have user agreements for the use of Bassett's Park, and the type of conflict is prescribed conflict of interest, and the action I'll take is leave the room while the matter is being discussed and voted on.
Okay, any other conflicts? Councillor Hancock.
Yes. Item C2, person with interest is Strat Post and News Proprietary Limited, which is my husband and myself. Particulars of interest is our business, Strat Post and News Proprietary Limited, are the Australia Post mail contractor who deliver mail to the residents on this road and are mentioned in the report. It's a declarable conflict of interest, and my action is, because Australia Post contractor is mentioned in the report as a stakeholder, I will leave the meeting while the decision is being discussed and voted on.
Okay, any other conflicts? Righto. So before we go into close, we might just adjourn.
I'll move, Mr Mayor. In accordance with the provisions of section 254J3 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, that Council resolved to close the meeting to the public to discuss the confidential items that its councillors consider as necessary to close the meeting. In accordance with section 254J5 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, the following table provides the matters to be discussed, an overview of what is to be discussed while the meeting is closed. C1, 2022-23 Quarter 1 Budget Review. C2, Request for Partial Road Closure, Noona Road. C3, Register for Review of Rate Assessment 150205448. C4, Consent to Survey Plan SP 330791. C5, Tender 230009, 236 Edward Street, Roma, lot number 1 on SP 295224. C6, Expression of Interest, Installation of Advertising Signage, Shady's Lagoon, lot 205 on R861. C7, Mitchell Spa, Proposed New Hot Pool. C8, Roma Saleyards Contract Services Strategy. C9, Application for Flood Risk Management Program. And C10, Potential Car Park Roma. C11, Expressions of Interest, Response Housing. LC1, Bassett Park Replace Ladies Toilet and Shower Block Project. LC2, lots 326 and 340 Clearview Rise, Roma. Well, that's plain up even when I'm talking into it.
Okay, do we have a seconder? Councillor Hancock. Any opposition? We'll go to the vote. All those in favour? 8-0. Going back to L2, request for quote VP 33252 Watermain Construction, Northern Road and Hangar Drive, Roma, Queensland 4455. Do we have a mover? Councillor Burkett.
I'd like to move that I'd move that Council select Roma Earth Moving Proprietary Limited as the preferred contractor for the completion of Watermain Construction, Northern Road and Hangar Drive, Roma, Queensland 4455, noting the submitted price of $301,883, exclusive of GST, including GST of $30,188.30 for the total value of $332,071.30. 2, Council authorise the Chief Executive Officer or Delegate to enter in final negotiations with Roma Earth Moving Proprietary Limited and form a contract to carry out the works if final terms are acceptable.
I'll second that. Now, do we have a question? Councillor Hancock.
I have a question. On page 5, I note that it says the project was not originally budgeted for. However, due to the lack of pressure and flow in this pipe and a new building currently being constructed at the Roma Airport, it has become necessary to improve the quality of the pressure and flow of this water pipeline. Fully supportive of the project. I'm saying it wasn't in our original budget, so I note that it says we're drawing it from Council's water review, but does then this change the bottom line within our budget?
Just through the chair, it'll be a capital works item. The money will come out of reserves, but again, it'll fund another capital works project.
This is being funded out of the financial contributions reserve, and so we're just taking an extra, probably about 100,000 out of there. But when we last looked, there was about 700,000 in that reserve.
Okay. Yep. Thank you.
Okay, does the move wish to speak to the project?
Yeah, Mr Mayor, I just think it's great to provide a secure water service to the airport and also for the future development of the airport. So I think it's a win-win for everyone.
Yeah. Does anyone else wish to speak? I'll speak. I think it's been a little bit, you know, some of the pressures have been a bit higgledy-piggledy, and this sounds like we've got a lot of investment that we work with the state government for a new bore, new line. So I think if we can get more volume, it'll be better for future development. We've got our stakeholders like Lifelight putting, you know, sizable investment in the region, and I believe we need to put our best foot forward and help sort out some of the water issues for the long-term benefit of the Maranoa community. Does anyone else wish to speak? Does the move wish to sum up?
Yes, Mr Mayor, just to say that thanks to Graham and his engineering team for getting this to fruition. So thanks for that.
Yep. Okay, we'll go to the vote. All those in favour? 7-0. Thank you. Okay, do we have someone to move back into close?
I'll move.
We might get
before we go.
Councillor McMullen.
He's still on the phone.
John? What's he got? Psychic, that man.
No, he's looking in it.
And through the chair, I've just circulated the executive information around the Roma Neighbourhood Centre and also a copy of the model rules.
Okay, do we have someone to move into closed?
I'll move we go into closed.
Yeah, do we have a seconder? Councillor O'Neill. Any opposition? We'll go to the vote. All those in favour? 8-0. Open. Did councillors... Oh, we need to take the sign off.
No one's here.
Did we have one up there?
Yeah, there was one.
We did.
And someone said there was someone outside that would have come in.
Did you see?
Has everyone had a chance to read the information about the incorporated body?
Yes.
So they've had an AGM.
Yep. Oh, the first meeting, yeah. Yeah.
It'll be AGM too.
Oh, we're going.
And so only those 4 people make up the...
We're not on that, are we?
No. Well, it is one we could do.
I'd have questions around.
Oh, we've got to go back to it, you mean?
Okay.
So it was on the original.
8.1. The first one we started on this morning.
In white.
It's our third go at it.
Third time lucky.
Page 48.
Okay, 8.1, request for lease agreement for Roma Neighbourhood Centre Incorporated. Do you have a question, Councillor?
Just on the information that was shared, just for context, there's a management committee, is that correct?
Yeah, I would understand so, yeah. And that's, well, normally all incorporated bodies, that's all of the executive that is that.
Your model rules, it says it's the president and the treasurer. Yep. And then at the annual general meeting, there's an election of other members onto the management committee. And so I see that there's a vice president and a secretary. There is no other members of the management committee?
No, I wasn't aware of anybody that was elected to a committee other than those people, the office bearers.
Yeah.
So it's just, I'm happy to be the council representative on there or whatever, but I was just happy to be a member so I could go along and then come back to council and deal with that.
What do we got here?
Just the model rules.
I've read,
I thought we went through all this before.
Yeah, no, well, we're just double checking to make sure there was no conflicts.
We didn't have the model rules before.
Okay, so we got a mover and a seconder. And has anybody spoken to it yet?
What did you move?
No.
What did you move?
Yeah,
Oh, it's up there. Sorry,
up
yeah.
there.
Oh, yeah.
I'll do it again. That one, a peppercorn lease agreement from Roma Neighbourhood Centre Incorporated for the Neighbourhood Centre located on the corner of Bowen and Quinton Street, Roma, be formulated. Council to consider a service level agreement with Roma Neighbourhood Centre Incorporated, and this be brought back to Council for consideration. Okay, so I'll speak to it. I think this is incredibly important. There will be so much community benefit that, as it was pointed out to me, there is a neighbourhood centre in Miles and there is one in Charleville. The fact that Roma does not have one is, I believe, an omission. So getting moving with this as quick as possible will be very beneficial, and let's see how much community benefit and how we can change the lives of people in the Maranoa by having this incorporated body, having support of council in what they do in the future. Okay, does anyone else wish to speak against the motion, or please go ahead?
What value are you putting on the peppercorn?
Well, it's normally $1. Yeah. Peppercorn lease is always one because it's a notional amount. Yeah.
It's not like you have to specify it.
Peppercorn lease. Peppercorn lease of $1.
And then would you consider putting a third point in there, just simply inviting the Roma Neighbourhood Centre Incorporated to come along to a briefing to discuss, you know, their future with council, what they want to do in that?
I'd rather just stick with getting the lease going, and then once council's decided it, then we can get them in the room.
If this is approved, then that it is deciding to enter into a peppercorn lease.
Be formulated. Didn't say we've got to actually have the lease and get it to come back yet.
Oh, beg your pardon. All right.
Okay, so does Councillor Hancock, do you wish to speak against the motion?
I do, thank you.
Please go ahead.
I don't agree with this motion simply because I don't believe that the building is the right building for the Roma Neighbourhood Centre to operate out of. You know, in recent times we've had briefings with council, and there is other buildings that I think would be more suitable for this, and I would just like to see that the money that we have put into and that we'll need to put into the upgrades to the Roma Neighbourhood Centre be actually spent on delivering some of these programs to the people who need it the most. And so on that basis, I will not be supporting this motion.
Does anyone wish to speak for the motion or against the motion? I'll sum up. I do believe this is needed. You know, the feeling in the community that I get is that people are so excited to see this happening. It's almost like we're getting our community spirit back. And with 23 rooms of community benefit that's available, what a wonderful thing to see this. And some of the people that have just expressed their delight to me that we're actually going to have a neighbourhood centre, I think is wonderful for Roma and the Maranoa to the wider community. So on that note, we'll go to the vote. All those in favour? All those against? 5-3 if I can call for a division. Okay, moving on. Now that's done.
That's the end of the white, isn't it?
Yep. Okay, we're into the pink, closed. C1, 2022-23 Q1 budget review. So we've got some wording there. Councillor O'Neill.
I'll move that this lays on the table to the next ordinary meeting of council.
Yeah, for clarification of...
for answers and clarification from the points that have been raised by councillors.
Okay. All those in favour? 8-0. Okay, moving on to C2. A request for partial road closure of Noona Road. Councillor O'Neill.
I'll move that Council 1 decline the request to close the road on lot 10EG42 and remove from Council's road register, and 2, approve the installation of electronic gates at landowner cost across the landowner's grid to improve biosecurity, primary production measures on the property.
Okay, do we have a seconder? Councillor Ladbrook. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak? We're going to go to the vote. All those in favour? 7-0. Okay, if we can get a councillor back. Thank you.
Julie's going anyway, so.
Oh, you're going.
All right, okay. C3, request for a review of rate assessment. Do we have a mover? Councillor Taylor.
Do you need to say the number?
Yeah, you need to say everything, yeah.
Do you need to say the number?
No, C3, request for a review of rate assessment number 1502058.
I'd like to move that Council 1 grant the applicant a concession under Section 121C of the Local Government Act, Local Government Regulation 2012, to provide a 65% concession of the rate increase due to loss of capping for the 2022-23 financial year, and 3, endorse a 65% concession on the rate increase for all future concession requests where the rate assessments lose their capping for the 2023 financial year.
We have a seconder?
2022-23 financial.
Oh, sorry, 22-23 financial year.
We have a seconder? I'll second that. Is there any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak? We'll go to the vote. All those in favour? 7-0. If we can get the councillor back, please. Okay, so we're up to C4, consent for survey plan SP 330791. Do we have a mover? Councillor Burkett.
I move that Council 1 authorise Chief Executive Officer or Delegate to progress discussions with the registered owners of Lot 4 on M15125, seeking to maximise public access to progressing the development of a new road, providing dedicated rear access to affected landowners and businesses on Cambridge Street, Mitchell. 2, if successful, delegate the Chief Executive Officer or Delegate to execute any documentation necessary. 3, if unsuccessful, write to the affected landowners and businesses to provide an update on the status of the project as matter of priority.
Okay, we have a seconder, Councillor Guthrie. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak? We're going to go to the vote. All those in favour? 8-0. Okay, C5. Page 138. Tender 23009-236 Edward Street, Roma, Lot 7 on SP 295224. Councillor Hancock.
I move that Council reject all tender submissions received for tender 23009 on the basis that they do not meet the market value minimum. 2, investigate the cost to bring the house to a condition that complies with rental requirements and standards, and authorise the Chief Executive Officer or Delegate to rent the property in the short term.
Okay, we have a seconder, Councillor O'Neill. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak? We're going to go to the vote. All those in favour? 8-0. Moving on to C6, page 177.
173.
Oh, sorry, 173.
173.
Geez, I jumped the gun myself.
You in a hurry?
No, I had it already turned.
C6, expression of interest in installation of advertising signage, Shady's Lagoon, lot 205 on R861. Councillor O'Neill.
I'll move that Council 1 note that no expressions of interest were received to install advertising signage at Shady's Lagoon. 2, acknowledge previous correspondence from an interested party during the year. 3, be provided details of charges and arrangements for other signage located on council land at the next meeting. And 4, once the information is provided, for point 4, progress discussions with the interested party.
We have a second, Councillor Ladbrook. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak? We're going to go to the vote.
Just for clarity, Mayor, I said point 4, but that was point 3, obviously.
Righto. Yeah. Second, happy with that? Yes. Righto. We're going to go to the vote. All those in favour? 8-0. Okay, moving on to
190.
190. Mitchell Spa, proposed new hot pool. Do we have a mover? Councillor Burkett.
I'd like to move that Council 1 give in principle support for Bringa Action Group's proposal to further develop a new pool at the Mitchell Great Artesian Spa Complex site. 2, develop a mutually beneficial agreement with the Bringa Action Group BAG for consideration at a future meeting, incorporating 10-year options, council support and ongoing assessment management costs.
Asset management.
Sorry.
Right, we have a second, Councillor Ladbrook. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak to it?
Yes, Mr Mayor, I think this is a win-win for not only the council but for the Mitchell community if it goes ahead. There's a lot of steps to be undertaken first, but I think this will solve a lot of problems during the tourist season, and it's like I say, it'll be a great asset for us moving forward.
Righto. Now, does anyone else wish to speak? I thought there was actually... yeah, on the point 2, does the mover have any interest in develop options for a mutually beneficial agreement?
That's already in there.
Oh, it's already in there?
Yep.
Oh, great. Okay. I'll speak for the motion. We've really seen the amount of employment that has increased with Bringa Action Group operating the Mitchell Great Artesian Spa Complex. Obviously, it is a non-for-profit community organisation and very good problem to have. I do believe we've got to look at the strategic benefit for the community of Mitchell and how we can grow that, is very important, and I believe it's urgent. So I believe we need to keep pushing this down the road, and obviously there's no decision today, but there is the decision of actually wanting to get this done, and we'll look forward to obviously it coming back to council. Does anyone wish to speak? Does the move wish to sum up?
Yes, Mr Mayor. Just on that, I think they employ 14 people at the spa, and the visitation has improved record numbers each year for over the 5 years. And I think this hopefully new before next tourist season, this asset will even increase those visitation numbers.
Okay, so on that note, we'll go to the vote. All those in favour? 8-0. C8, Roma Saleyards Contract Services. Do we have a mover? I'd like to move that one.
You're right now, yep.
That one, undertake consultation process with Roma livestock agents operating at Roma Saleyards to discuss options and cost benefits of the underlying agreements as soon as possible. 2, combine the feedback from the consultation process into major themes and trends. 3, be provided a future report with cost benefits of various themes and trends for council's consideration. Do we have a seconder? Councillor McMullen? Was that correct? And does anyone wish to speak? We're going to go to the vote. All those in favour? 7-0. If we can get the councillor back, please. Have we got the different motion there for the next one? Someone's got it?
Yeah.
Okay. So we're on page 200, C9, application for flood risk management program. Councillor Burkett.
I'd like to move that Council 1 submit an application under the flood risk management program for a project to identify and respond to known gaps in the current data systems, processes and information to address and minimise the community's flood risk exposure, including but not limited to the priority items identified in resolution number OM/10.2022/66 and regional modelling and mapping of more frequent and rare flood events to align with the best practice and the state planning policy, and improvement of land use planning policy in the Maranoa planning scheme, and 2, authorise the Chief Executive Officer or delegate to sign the submission forms and any further agreements as required.
Okay, we have a seconder, Councillor McMullen.
Through you, Mr Mayor, Councillor Burkett, you mentioned the council, and this was further.
I didn't do, oh sorry, yeah, the first one, the council further to the resolution number OM/10.2022/66, sorry.
Councillor McMullen, you're happy with that?
That's fine.
Yep. As the seconder. Okay, does anyone wish to speak to this? No. We're going to go to the vote. All those in favour? 8-0. C10, potential car park Roma. I'd like to move that Council 1, consult with the identified landowners in the report. 2, be provided with a further report with the outcome of discussions and other considerations identified at an upcoming meeting. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Burkett, any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak? I'll speak to this. I believe that we need to deal with congestion in different parts of town. I believe we've got some businesses that have spent considerable amounts of money investing in the region, and if we at least investigate it without any commitment, it would be, far more beneficial to talk early, whilst there's opportunities of reduced costs for council. Okay, does someone wish to speak against the motion? Councillor O'Neill.
I'm speaking against this simply because I don't think we're in a strong financial position to undertake a further car park this year. We have taken the step to buy the parcel of land at the western end of the CBD that was part of this year's budget to build a new car park, and we've gone at great lengths to not only purchase the block but also to budget for the actual construction of the car park. In my time in council, we've also taken the steps to lease a block beside the ambulance in Roma to also help mitigate the pressures of car parking in the CBD. I would like to see us complete the project at the western end of the CBD and get that done to see what positive impact that will have to the car parking issues in the CBD. And I just simply can't support this because we'll be setting an expectation and I don't believe we're in a strong enough financial position to do two car parks this financial year.
Okay, does anyone wish to speak for the motion? Councillor Burkett.
Mr Mayor, I'm not getting that far ahead. I'm supporting this motion just to see what's out there, and there could be other options moving forward. I wouldn't imagine anything to be happening in this financial year anyway, but it's just curious to see what's going to come out of what they want and what they've got in mind with it, and so it's just until we get that report we won't know.
Okay, does anyone wish to speak against the motion? Councillor Hancock.
Yeah, I'm just not supporting this motion at the moment because I just think that the timing is is just off at the moment. I just don't think we can afford it. We've already committed to doing a car park, as Councillor O'Neill has informed, and I just don't think that we actually are in a financial position where we can afford to do this at this time.
Okay, does someone wish to speak for the motion?
Yeah, I just think it won't hurt to do the exercise and have a look. We may get a bargain, and if we don't, we haven't lost anything.
Okay, does anyone wish to speak against the motion or for the motion? Councillor McMullen?
Mr Mayor, I agree with what both Councillor O'Neill and Councillor Hancock have said, and I'm supporting this motion only on the grounds of investigating at this point in time. I wouldn't support anything else, and I'm only want to be interested in investigating on the possible purchase price, I suppose the words to say.
Okay, does anyone else wish to speak? I'll sum up. As I said, that there's been major investment, and we all know how much of a headache it is and costs and so forth if you don't plan your region. In the future, I would like to see the communities in the Maranoa grow sustainably, and if we don't think ahead and we don't ask the questions and be proactive, and I believe councils in the past were always proactive, and I think we need to bring that back into how we look at future challenges before they actually become acute challenges. Okay, on that note, we'll go to the vote. All those in favour? All those against? 6-3 if I can call for a division.
No.
5-3, sorry, and if I can call for a division. Okay, now moving on to
209.
209, C11, expressions of interest, response housing. I'd like to move that Council A write to all responders who are currently renting through real estate agents to thank them and advise them that we will not progress these responses on the basis that we do not wish to affect the current real estate market, and we are only looking for properties that have not been on the market at all or for a period of 12 months or more. B, shortlist eligible responses for suitable houses to progress for consideration of a head lease for 12 months in collaboration with stakeholders. And then I'll change it around. The next one will be C, aim to select criteria for high quality tenants with good histories and to ensure regular inspection and monitoring regime to support the rentability of these properties. And then D, rent these properties on a commercial basis with the aim to offer local real estate agents the opportunity to select and manage the tenancies. And then D, set aside $50,000 from the operational budget to support housing shortage program initiative, and that these monies be taken from unrestricted cash reserves to fund the following budget line: economic development stimulus package, special projects 02980.2500 as part of the first quarterly review for the 2022-23 budget.
Mr Mayor, did you say D?
Yeah, it's
say D.
It's E.
And it was E.
Sorry,
No,
E. E was the last one.
I'll second it, Mr Mayor.
Okay, we've got a second to Councillor McMullen.
I've got a question.
Please go ahead.
And what is the $50,000 going to be actually used for?
All to do with any costs associated with being able to rent the properties. So it could be bond that has to be paid, it could be minor works that has to be done, it can be when the tenants leave, bringing the property up to all of those things. So it's a budget, but I'll speak to that. I think if we're serious about doing something, we'll stop talking and get on to doing. We have huge wait times in getting anything done in the housing space. This is something that we can do now. Yes, it will cost some money, but in the end, if we can be a shock absorber, and even each property that we can bring on the market that wasn't there before is doing a family some service or individuals some service, I believe we need to enter into this market for this extreme time and then enter out when the market responds back like a normal market. So this, I believe, is a common sense business approach, and council, if this is supported, need to be commended on being able to try and bring extra properties into an extremely almost out of control market. Okay, does someone wish to speak against the motion? Councillor Taylor.
First off, I'd like to say congratulations to the team that found the properties that we got our briefing on. I think they've done a marvellous job. So we've done the hard yard. So now I believe we should just hand that over to the real estate. These are the properties that have come to us. Do with it what you will, blah, blah, blah. This is not our business. Like, okay, we've done some work for somebody, but we're not a commercial real estate agent. And I know as the head lease, and now you're saying the 50,000 could also be part of paying for bond. This is just not what we should be doing as a council. I agree wholeheartedly that we've gone in and we've had a look and that we've had a briefing come back to us. So out of that briefing, I got the fact that we should not be doing this. We've found, I think, in the end, there was about 15 or 20 properties that could be rented out. So hand that over to the real estate agent. Say, here's 20 more properties. You do your job. We've tried to help you. This is what we've done. So I can't support this because I just don't believe it's any of our business.
Okay, does anyone wish to speak for the motion?
Mr Mayor, I'll just say I thought the whole idea of this was to capture the houses that the people won't give to the agents. That was the idea of us doing this, and we'd take the head lease on.
Back to the agents anyway.
No, but we have the head lease on the agents are renting on our behalf, so I'll support it, Mr Mayor.
Okay, does anyone wish to speak against the motion? Councillor Hancock.
Yeah, I'm speaking against this motion because I actually just don't think that this is a new strategic initiative that council has come up with. I think that we have local businesses and local real estate agencies that actually already do this in town. And yes, there has been a lot of work put into the report that that's been presented to us. But interestingly enough, I wouldn't suggest that it's affordable rental prices that has been suggested to council through this process. And so therefore, I actually don't know if it actually is meeting what that council initially thought it was going to meet. I just think that homeowners have seen an opportunity to be able to go through council instead of going through the local businesses and real estate agents. I think that if people were going to rent, they would have already rented through the real estate agents. And I suppose I am a little bit disappointed because whilst we've gone out and we've done this, as council, we actually haven't invited the real estate agents who provide this service to our town in to discuss with council where are the shortfalls, where are the issues, how could council support this. We actually haven't had the conversation about what is actually the requirements and where are the shortfalls from a real estate agency point of view. And they're the professionals in the business. And so I actually just don't think I can support this simply because I think that we should be supporting the businesses in our community who already provide this service to our community.
Does anyone wish to speak for the motion or against the motion?
I'll speak for.
Councillor Business.
Mr Mayor, like I said in the briefing, I think this has exposed a lot of houses that haven't been on the rent, haven't been for rent or been sitting vacant for a long period of time, and I think if we didn't go through this process, those places would be still sitting, going to rack and ruin. I know one particular one in Mitchell that's actually getting worked under it now to be used to be rented, and I think if the rental the rental professionals were on top of this, they would have had all these guys locked up. I think we can work together in this space. We do it with housing as it is. We look after a number of houses. I think it's a win-win if we can get as many vacant houses rented out, because there is a shortage, and it'll be good for the Maranoa.
Okay, does anyone wish to speak against the motion?
An amendment. Point C, would you consider rent these properties on a commercial basis through local real estate agents to manage the tenancies?
That's what we've got in the next one.
It says aim. So rent these properties on a commercial basis through local real estate agents who will manage the tenancies.
I think there would be a reason why the officer put aim in there, and I wouldn't accept that, because I understand that is our aim, so that's what we want to do, but there may be a specific reason why that may or may not be able to happen, so I'd be happy to leave it with aim, and I expect that these will go to the real estate agent to manage, but just in case you know, one can't. I think point 1 is very clear that we don't want to take any houses that are not with the real estate agent. So do you wish to go and do the amendment?
Well, I've moved it. You haven't.
So I'm not willing to put that in there. So do you have a seconder? Okay, well, it's lost. Okay, we'll keep going. Do you
lapses. It didn't lose, it lapses.
Oh, lapsed.
I'll speak against it.
Please go ahead.
I'm going to speak against this, and I'm really torn because I supported the initiative about flushing out the houses that weren't currently on the rental market. I actually agree with Councillor Taylor's points. We need to play a role, and we've played it. This is a good example of council taking steps to help rectify a problem. Our staff, Danny and Lucy, have done a marvellous job, so I concur with the other comments in supporting and commending what they've done. I just think that our role is to help, as I say, flush this out, to understand what was out there. Anecdotally, we were getting information. The census was suggesting something much stronger than what the reality was. So the body of work, I think, was important for us to understand, at least from the respondents, as to what is out there in terms of possible housing that could be rented out. I think it is upon us to support local business. I often hear councillors speak in here, all of us, say that we support local business. Well, this is a way that we can further support local business and sit down with the local real estate agents and share with them what we've been able to collate, and play a role in working between the owner of the property and their aim to rent it out. And that way we would be actually achieving our goal in helping to mitigate the current rental crisis that we face. And that would have occurred had point C been strengthened to say that we would, not an aim, that we would work with the local real estate agents to manage the tenancies. So whilst I overall support the concept and supported us flushing it out to understand what was out there, I just can't support the resolution as it stands.
Okay, I'll sum up if no one else wishes to speak. Yeah, well, I'm certainly not a councillor that wants to talk about it and then not follow through. I will be supporting this motion. I do not believe in, and just clarifying the point that Councillor Hancock said that we're going to be taking them from real estate agents. I think point A is very clear that we're going to say that if there's any history in the last 12 months you've rented it, we're not interested in your property. So I think it's very clear, and that is actually supporting local real estate agents. It also focuses on bringing new properties to the market, I know of one family that will be homeless in the next few weeks, and they're under an incredible amount of stress. So I think anything we can do, we should be a can-do council where we're actually doing things. And one of the big frustrations from the community is when council talks but doesn't do anything, is the feedback that I've got. So I'm really hoping that this resolution actually gets up and we can actually start to do something. And I'm certainly not someone that believes in talk fests or flushing things out and doing nothing about them then. And also the feedback that I've got is that they would like to deal with council, and that's why some of these houses are getting on the market. So if you just want to flush it out and then do nothing about it afterwards and hand it over, and they're not interested in dealing without council in there, then we've basically done nothing and just talked about it. So certainly interested in doing things. I believe that's what council should be about, and I'll be supporting this motion to get moving with one by one trying to help the distressed rental market in Roma, where you have 30 or 40 people coming to one rental property. Okay, on that note, we'll go to the vote. All those in favour? All those against? 5-3, if I can call for a division. Okay, moving on. Looks like we're on to the
LC1.
LC1, thank you. LC1, Bassett Park, replace ladies' toilet and shower block project. And the councillor's already gone.
I'll move, Mr. Mayor.
Please go ahead.
I'll move that Council 1 acknowledge OM-10.2022-71 and that all tenders received were outside of the available budget. 2, note that all submissions to requests for tender number 22041 for Bassett Park replace ladies' toilet and shower block were rejected due to price, and council resolved to go to construction and delivery. 3, confirm that a contract for $277,740.14, excluding GST, has been successfully negotiated with Brett Cherry Builders Proprietary Limited.
Okay, we have a second of Councillor Burkett. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak to it? I'll speak to it. I do believe this is, whilst it's a considerable amount of money, I think when people see what's actually delivered and the benefit it will be to the users of the showgrounds and all of the different user groups, I think this we will be guaranteed of good quality because we're using local builders. As talking to local builders, they actually say that, they live here and it's their pride in the community. And to be able to deliver something that I would hope has got less maintenance cost, less cleaning cost, and really some of the feedback is that we're not maintaining the assets of Bassett Park, and this is an example where we're improving assets of Bassett Park. So I'm really glad he's taking this lower risk route by going with a local contractor and building long-term infrastructure that has a lot of capacity to be used with fairly high volume usage. Okay, does anyone else wish to speak? Councillor O'Neill.
I'll be supporting this resolution on the basis that 10 years ago we started a Bassett Park master planning process. In that plan it identified quite a number of areas that needed to be improved, and this is one of them. It's the sad fact of being a regional council with not endless money to spend that we need to do things one by one. I mean, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. And this is another example that we'll be able to illustrate to the community that we are backing their assets. It is a well-used facility, and the feedback for some time has been that this is at a point that needs investment. And so I'm very, very happy to be supporting this today. And I think we will get strong support from the community by seeing this approved if it goes through the council meeting this afternoon.
Does anyone else wish to speak? I'll sum up. Yeah, as I've said, you know, we've certainly had...
You didn't move it, Councillor McMullen did.
Oh, sorry, Councillor McMullen,
Yeah,
did you
no,
wish
I'm right,
to sum up?
Mr Mayor, I'm right there.
Okay, then we'll go to the vote. All those in favour? All those against? Okay, carried 7-0. If we can get the councillor back.
Butcher.
Oh, no. Get this.
Is there any others, Kel, except for this one?
This is it.
This is it.
Just this?
We'll still get there for the last 20 minutes.
We won't get that.
It'll all be over by
Yeah, where is he?
LC2, lot 326 and 340, Clearview Rise, Roma. Councillor Burkett.
I'd like to move the council advise Economic Development Queensland of council's interest in being gifted lot 326 on SP 321788 and lot 340 on SP 321788 for the purpose of future delivery of affordable housing solutions in Roma.
And we have a second, Councillor Ladbrook. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak?
No.
We'll go to the vote. All those in favour? 8-0. No further business, councillors. I will close the meeting at 5:10 p.m. and thank you for your attendance.